Chapter 32. When the three of them pushed open the door to Amethyst's office and walked in, everyone in the room looked at them in surprise. It was nothing more than a question. How did these three guys get together? There were no barriers between the girls, and Luoluo and Junrain quickly joined the crowd and greeted everyone with smiles. Gu Fei, on the other hand, clearly felt that he was an independent existence here. Only July came up to him and greeted him. "You're here." Gu Fei nodded. There was a very important reason why he came with Luoluo and Junrain. After Luoluo said Xiaoqi sent a message, he also received a message from July. If not for this message, Gu Fei wouldn't have come to ask for trouble no matter how much Junrain threatened him. A room full of girls was quite a sight. Gu Fei reckoned that unless he accidentally entered a women's bathhouse, he would never have the chance to be alone in a room with so many girls again. Frankly speaking, this situation was quite awkward. Gu Fei even regretted coming here. He slipped to a seat by the window and sat down, looking out the window absent-mindedly. On the other side, July looked at the people in the circle and clapped her hands. Everyone online is here. It's not easy to gather so many people at once. "Xiaoqi, what quest did you get?" a voice asked excitedly. Gu Fei didn't need to look to know that it was Junrain. Now that he knew she was a girl, her voice sounded quite feminine. Why couldn't he tell that it was a girl's voice when he didn't notice it before? It's not too difficult to quest. Fortunately, it's our guild's first time, July replied. The quests in the parallel world weren't divided by levels like in other online games, nor did they have a clear indication of the difficulty. Once a quest was received, it would be known how difficult it was, and whether it could be completed or not. This was something that the players had to explore themselves. Fortunately, this was the information age. Every time a mission was explored, someone would always upload the research results to the online forum. Therefore, the current trend was that every time they received an unfamiliar mission, they would first go to the mission section of the forum to collect relevant information, then come back to deal with it. After July received the guild quest, she went to the internet to look up the information. Many of the newly established 20-man guilds had the ability to complete the quest, so July believed that the reborn Amethyst would have no problem completing it. Although Junrain was a quest maniac, she only knew about solo quests. She hadn't paid much attention to group quests like guild quests. After hearing the name of the quest from July, she continued to ask questions. Mission: take back the treasure chest that was stolen. It was a very cliched quest plot. Basically, the treasure chest was lost, and now that it had been discovered, they had to go and snatch it back. July took out a map that she had prepared and placed it on the table. She began to explain to everyone. "I've looked it up on the internet. The treasure chest could be in one of these 7 places." July pointed at the 7 locations that she had marked on the map. "These 7 places are quite far away from each other," Luoluo said. July nodded. The internet suggested that we split up into groups to find the exact location of the treasure chest, then work together as a group. I'm thinking the same thing. If they complete the quest, the team with the least number of people will be able to clear it with 6 people. Now July turned in a circle to confirm the number of people. "We have 14 people now. I believe it won't be too much of a problem." Gu Fei didn't gather around to look at the map. He just sat there and listened to July. When he heard that 6 people would be able to clear it, he was about to blurt out, "Then I'll go." But July continued, 14 people. We'll split into groups of 2, and we'll find 7 places." The girls nodded, and Gu Fei swallowed his words. "Next, let's split into groups." After July finished speaking, everyone's eyes unconsciously fell on Gu Fei. Frankly speaking, the female players didn't have any negative feelings towards male players. It was just that they were determined to form a female guild. If a male suddenly squeezed in, it would be somewhat of an eyesore. At least at this moment, for them, Gu Fei was still a stranger. They were about to split into groups. No one would be willing to be in a group with a stranger. This was also human nature. How could July not understand everyone's thoughts? But this small matter really wasn't worth dragging. So she simply pointed at Gu Fei and said, "Qianli, who do you want to be in a group with?" When Gu Fei heard that he was going to be split into groups, He thought that he would be kicked around like a ball. He was just wondering who would be so unlucky as to be in a group with him. But he didn't expect that July would take care of him and actually give him the chance to choose 1 out of 13. Gu Fei's eyes swept across the group and finally stopped on June Rain. He smiled and said, "I'll be in a group with Little Rain." "What? Why do you want to be in a group with me?" June Rain yelled. "We're brothers," Gu Fei said with a smile. June Rain was momentarily speechless. The other girls all had blank looks on their faces. Only Lualua laughed lightly and went into the group of girls to whisper into their ears. For a moment there was a lot of laughter. "All right then, you two will be in a group. Go to this place." July pointed at a random place on the map. Gu Fei had already opened the door, so June Rain could only helplessly leave with Gu Fei. The other people were neatly divided into groups. In the blink of an eye, 6 groups of people also left the guild, each heading towards their own destination. The 7 locations were distributed in 7 different directions around Cloud City. Fortunately, the quest was issued by the system. If it was made by a player, the person who accepted the quest would probably have to kill that person first. How did they do their intelligence work? He had actually found 7 different locations. Because they were doing a quest, June Rain was very energetic. After leaving the guild, she strode forward without looking back. Gu Fei was also a little hot-blooded by her heroic aura, and followed behind her in a majestic manner. Unfortunately, Gu Fei's outfit didn't make him look imposing. June Rain put on her equipment as soon as she left the shop. Her heavy armor, which revealed nothing but her face, and the gray tax on her shoulder, gave off a heavy and oppressive feeling. As for Gu Fei, the mage's beginner's robe fluttered in the wind. It looked a bit carefree, but from the perspective of a gaming professional, such poor equipment could easily be blown away by the wind. As the two walked, they suddenly heard someone shout from behind. It was Gu Fei's name. Turning around, they saw July leading a girl that Gu Fei didn't know chasing after them. The two stopped and waited for July to walk in front of them. She took out something from her pocket and handed it to Gu Fei. "Take it." Gu Fei took it and looked. It was a magic staff. Intelligence +8, Stamina +3, strengthen fire spells by 20%. It was a pretty good little item, but Gu Fei said without rhyme or reason. "So low attack." "Low." July took it back and looked at it, puzzled. The two didn't have anything in common, because only Gu Fei would pay attention to a magic staff's physical attack. That was just a symbolic lower and upper limit. No matter how good a magic staff was, its physical attack couldn't compare to Gu Fei's broken white plate sword. Looking at a magic staff, it was the magic attack. This magic staff wasn't low. It was one of the best items on the market. "Then what about the one you're using? Let me see." July wanted to see what kind of awesome magic staff Gu Fei was using. It was fine if he said that the additional attributes of this magic staff weren't very good, but he actually said that the attack was low. "Mine broke," Gu Fei said. He was talking about his own sword. The two didn't have any interaction at all. "Then take this one and use it first." July shoved it back to him. "Okay." Gu Fei took it with a face of reluctance. July didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Even if this magic staff wasn't as good as the one he used before, it was still good. Was there a need to be so aggrieved? After using appraisal on Gu Fei, she found that this level 30 mage's equipment was trashed to the extreme, so she gave him a magic staff. Who would have thought that in the end he didn't even say thank you? "Okay, hurry up." July waved at Gu Fei and June Rain, and walked in another direction with the girl. Gu Fei and June Rain also continued forward. In front was a heavy warrior, with a giant axe on his shoulder. Behind him was a beginner-robed mage with a magic staff on his shoulder. The two swaggered through the streets like this, all the way out of Cloud City. At this time, June Rain stopped and turned to ask Gu Fei, "Which way?" Gu Fei broke down. He suddenly felt that choosing to team with her was a very serious mistake. At this moment, it was too late for regret. He could only helplessly ask, "Didn't you see the map?" "Nonsense, who would look at that thing?" June Rain said righteously. "I don't know how to look at it either." Gu Fei didn't say that he didn't look at it at all. June Rain felt like she had found a friend. "Then what should we do?" asked Gufei really didn't have a temper. He pulled out his friend list and sent a message to July. July quickly replied and pointed out the direction that they should go. Let's go, Gufei said. This time, it was his turn to walk in front, and June Rain followed behind. The place that July pointed out to the two was called Cloud Suburb Lake. Cloud referred to Cloud City, and this lake was called Cloud Suburb Lake, which meant a lake in the suburbs of Cloud City. It was very simple. Gufei knew where this lake was, but the problem was that in order to go to this lake, June Rain had led the way through the wrong city gate. Now the two had to go in a big circle to reach this designated destination. Gufei sighed deeply. He thought of a maxim. Don't be afraid of a godlike opponent, be afraid of a pig-like teammate. He felt that it was very likely that he had met the legendary pig-like teammate. The future of this trip was uncertain. Chapter 33. The lakeside in the outskirts of the city was a beautiful view of the lake and the mountains. It was the perfect place for flirting. Although most players were stuck at level 30, the romance industry, which symbolized youth, was flourishing. The lakeside in the outskirts seemed to be thriving. If one wasn't careful while walking, it was very likely that they would step on a couple in the bushes. With June Rain's rough lines, it wasn't her style to not step on one or two. As expected, not long after stepping into this area, a person jumped up beside June Rain's feet. Why are you walking? Can't you see there's someone under your feet? June Rain and Gufei were both shocked. They apologized repeatedly and took a detour. Gufei also became cautious. He used his exquisite staff as a serpent-seeking staff. He pointed at the bushes in front of him and muttered, "Is there anyone? Is there anyone?" There were no more accidents along the way. The couple hiding in the bushes heard Gufei's shout and saw the wooden stick in his hand. They quickly moved away. Gufei and June Rain finally arrived at the lakeside. The lake water rippled. There was no trash on the surface. The environmental work was done very well. There were rumors that some players had already started to research which production skill was used to make boats. When the time came, they would set up a small dock by the lakeside and rent out a few boats. Business would definitely be good. Gufei was admiring the scenery when June Rain, who was beside him, yelled, "Ah, treasure chest, where are you?" Treasure chest. Hearing these two words, countless ears perked up. Countless eyes flashed in the bushes and looked towards the two guys by the lake. Gufei looked around. If the quest was to take back the treasure chest, then there should be NPCs guarding the place where the treasure chest was. There were also small monsters by the lakeside, but they were few and scattered. Plus, this was the love zone, so no one would come here to kill monsters and level up. The distribution of NPCs was very well maintained. Gufei looked around and didn't find any place where the NPCs were particularly concentrated. Let's go take a look. Helpless, he could only walk in the direction of a few NPCs that looked like a small group. As the two of them moved, the grass rustled. Countless people crawled forward and continued to monitor the two fellows who were talking about treasure chests. No, that's not true either. That's still nothing. Along the way, June Rain shouted in frustration as she cleared out the NPCs. The NPCs by the lakeside were not very high-leveled. June Rain was a level 30 full-powered warrior, and she could basically kill an NPC with 2 swings of her axe. Gufei did not even have to lift a finger. Gufei had no choice but to search the nearby bushes carefully. In the end, he didn't find any treasure chests, but he found 2 pairs of lovers. The 2 of them had already walked half a circle around the lake. Only a few players were left crawling behind them, and the treasure chest was still nowhere to be found. Gufei had long since felt dispirited, but June Rain's fighting spirit did not diminish. Her spirits were just as high as when she left the guild. Gufei suddenly felt a little sympathetic. This girl's dedication to online quests was like his passion for martial arts. June Rain continued to kill monsters, pull the grass, and search for the treasure chest. Gufei had already begun to slack off. He held a stick and randomly whipped it left and right as he yawned. His current state of boredom was the same as a normal player who had been killing the same monsters in the same place for countless hours. Suddenly they heard June Rain shout, "Aya! It's here!" "Where?" Gufei's spirit was lifted. Finding the treasure chest meant that the quest would soon be over. Junrain happily pointed forward. In the grass halfway up the slope, there was a wooden stake that had its upper body cut off. A treasure chest was placed on top of it, and there was not even a shadow of an NPC around the treasure chest. That simple? Gu Fei was puzzled. Didn't July say that after finding the treasure chest, she would notify everyone to gather, and then everyone would snatch the treasure chest together? In this situation, why would they need to snatch it? Wouldn't it be better to just carry it back? Look, just like little Rain. Junrain had already gone up to carry the treasure chest. Suddenly, the grass behind her trembled, and a few figures flew up and dashed towards the treasure chest. Ah, there's an ambush. What a cunning NPC. Junrain shouted. What NPC? These guys were players that had been following them. Gu Fei knew this very well. From the very beginning, he knew that these guys were crawling behind them. Gu Fei could roughly guess the intentions of these people. But since this treasure chest was their quest item, it should at least have the demeanor of a quest item. Who would have thought that it would be placed so neatly on the ground, looking like it was waiting to be trampled upon? Junrain was still the closest to the treasure chest. However, with her heavy equipment, running wasn't her strong suit. After a few steps, she was pushed back by a lot. Gu Fei stepped forward and stabbed the end of his staff forward. Then he swung it left and right. With two paw-paw sounds, two players who had rushed up were hit by the staff. Of course, using a staff like this had limited damage, but the two players were a little dazed after being hit. After crawling behind for a long time, and using Identify on Gu Fei more than 180 times out of boredom, they had long since confirmed that he was a mage. When they saw this guy step forward, they thought that they would be greeted with a blazing fire. Who would have thought that they would be hit with a stick? These two stayed where they were in a daze, while the other two took the opportunity to go around them. Although Gu Fei was an agility mage, his speed wasn't slow, but his opponent was a more professional thief. Seeing that he couldn't catch up, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a knife. He raised his hand and threw it. Xiao! The thief on the left was stabbed by the knife. He cried out in pain and pulled out a knife from his butt. He was stunned. What kind of move was this? Gu Fei had already taken out a second knife and was ready to deal with the one on the right. This one was jubilantly trying to pass Junrain, but Junrain's arm suddenly reached out and grabbed the guy's collar. The thief subconsciously swung his dagger at her, but Junrain was wearing heavy armor. She didn't dodge or evade. She swung her arm, and with a whoosh, the thief flew into the air and finally fell into the river with a splash. Violent warriors are so scary. Gu Fei broke out in a cold sweat. The strength of this arm had already surpassed the standard of any normal human in life. He was only level 30. If he continued to level up, the consequences would be unimaginable. At this moment, the guy who had been hit by the two sticks reacted. Seeing that he wasn't seriously injured, he hurriedly rushed forward. Gu Fei turned back and shouted at Junrain. I'll block them, you go get the treasure chest. He then turned back to face them. The two seemed to have seen through the fact that the staff in Gu Fei's hand wouldn't hurt them even if they hit them. They didn't dodge, but forcefully broke through the staff. Gu Fei, who had great awareness of martial arts and was prepared to deal with each move, didn't expect this kind of scoundrel fighting style. Being alone and weak, he was knocked to the ground by the momentum of the two's charge. You idiot! Junrain saw this and actually abandoned the treasure chest, wanting to come back to help. But unexpectedly Gu Fei, who was about to fall to the ground, suddenly straightened his waist and spun in the air. The staff in his hand swept out with a whoosh and hit the two's ankles. Ah! Ah! Two screams sounded. The two were swept to the ground, but the damage was still not serious. The two were about to get up, but how could they be faster than Gu Fei's professional carp jump? Gu Fei, who got up first, stepped on the two of them again, then raised his staff and hit them fiercely. What are you two doing? Are you going around? I look down on people who don't have any skills in fighting. Although Gu Fei was weak, he was fast and had a high frequency. What's more, he had sharp eyes. Gu Fei immediately saw which joints the other were about to move, and immediately swung the staff in his hand. After a few swings of the staff, The two couldn't even lift their heads. They finally learned their lesson and lay on the ground without moving. Gu Fei's staff also stopped. Looking back, the guy whose butt had been kicked by him had already been thrown away by June Rain. At this moment, she was happily running towards the treasure chest. Suddenly, Gu Fei noticed that the bushes beside the wooden stake were moving violently. He hurriedly warned, "Careful, there's someone else." June Rain's reaction was of course slow. While she was distracted, a person flew out of the bushes and pounced towards the treasure chest. Gu Fei was depressed. He might as well not have warned her. June Rain might have already gotten in front of him and could have fought with that guy. Now that he shouted, that silly girl immediately stood there in a daze. Instead, she let the other party snatch the initiative. The treasure chest was about to be taken away by the other party. Just as he was feeling annoyed, he suddenly heard an ear-piercing sound coming from afar. Whoosh! The guy who pounced towards the treasure chest flew sideways and turned into white light in the air. What's going on? Gu Fei was shocked. June Rain's reaction was unprecedentedly fast. She immediately hid behind the wooden stake and shouted at Gu Fei, "Get down, it's a sniper!" Gu Fei nimbly fell to the ground and lay beside the two guys. He muttered doubtfully, "Sniper? It's a level 30 archer skill. Although the damage isn't as good as a mage's chain fireball, a thief's backstab, or a warrior's whirlwind slash, the attack range is too terrifying. It can double the normal shooting range. You'll only receive his arrows, but you'll never see him." The guy lying beside Gu Fei explained. "Is that so? Can't find him?" Gu Fei smiled. Chapter 34. The Yunjiao Lake was quiet. The players hiding in the bushes didn't dare to move. The two players beside Gu Fei were staring at the strange smile on Gu Fei's face. "Qianli, I apologize for offending you just now," Gu Fei said to the two players. The two players looked at each other. "I'm Fei Lian," the player on the left said. "I'm Emergence," the player on the right said. "Nice to meet you." Gu Fei extended his hand to shake the two players' hands. The two players didn't know each other, so it was only natural for them to greet each other. The bushes rustled as the three players greeted each other. From afar, it looked extremely impure. June Rain, who was hiding behind a wooden pillar, couldn't help but ask curiously, "What are you three doing? Don't fight." "It's fine, we're fine. Why are you still fighting at a time like this?" Emergence shouted as he waved his hand at June Rain. It was just that this arm was raised too high, like a lamp guiding the way. With a so sound, another arrow came flying over. "Fuck." Emergence touched the arrow stuck in his waist and looked at his health bar. "I'm dead," he said, but he really did die. "Get out of here." Gu Fei yelled at Fei Lian. "Why are you cursing me?" Fei Lian asked in confusion. He only realized what was going on when he saw Gu Fei quickly roll to the side. He hurriedly dodged to the side as well, but his reaction was a bit too slow. The arrow whistled through the air and hit his right arm. That wasn't the end of it. A few more arrows landed in the bushes that the two players were no longer in. Gu Fei didn't move. He tilted his head slightly and asked, "Are you all right?" He had already seen the damage from the sniper. The two players who were hit were instantly killed. "I'm fine," Fei Lian replied through gritted teeth. "That wasn't a sniper shot, so the damage wasn't that high." "Oh, why isn't he using it?" Gu Fei asked. "Sniper skills have a long cooldown, so there's no way he could fire 2 arrows in a row," Fei Lian said. "You know quite well," said Gu Fei. "I'm an archer as well," Fei Lian replied. "Oh, then you should snipe him too," Gu Fei said. "I'm not even level 30 yet," Fei Lian said regretfully. Gu Fei could only sigh. Also, Fei Lian was not finished yet. "Judging from the arrow that he shot at me, I can tell that his damage is very high. His equipment should be top tier." A level 30 player, with a full set of exquisite equipment. This was the strongest form in the game right now. It seemed that he had encountered a troublesome enemy today. Gu Fei stole a glance at the hillside in the distance. Other than the sudden arrow, Gu Fei had seen the subsequent attacks. Although the arrows were fast, they were not as fast as Gu Fei's eyes. However, it was precisely because he could see clearly that Gu Fei understood that the sniper not only had a longer range, but also a faster rate of fire than a normal attack. Moreover, The player's normal attacks had all reached him, which meant that he was not hiding within the maximum range of the sniper. A close-range attack was even more difficult to dodge. If it was a normal attack, Gu Fei was confident that he could dodge it. However, if it was a sniper, Gu Fei shook his head. What's the cooldown for sniper? Gu Fei asked Fei Lian. According to the official website, it's 45 seconds, Fei Lian replied. However, it's hard to say when it comes to an individual. I wonder if he has any equipment that can shorten the cooldown. There are rumors that increasing one's stamina can shorten the cooldown of a skill. 45 seconds. Gu Fei muttered. It had already been 45 seconds since the last sniper had fired. If he revealed himself now, he would definitely be killed in one shot. However, Gu Fei needed this arrow. He needed to see the arrow to determine the player's exact location. Only by knowing the opponent's target would he be able to deduce the opponent's location from the trajectory of the arrow. Deduce the opponent's location by listening to the wind? That would only allow him to deduce north, south, east, and west. Right now, what Gu Fei needed was a precise location. Little Rain. Gu Fei added June's Rain as a friend and sent her a private message. What? Little Rain replied. What's your defense? Gu Fei asked. Why do you ask? Little Rain reported. Gu Fei didn't reply. Instead, he turned to Fei Lian and asked, what's the damage of that normal attack? Fei Lian checked his own injuries and reported the number of injuries he had sustained. Then he asked, why do you ask? How much damage does sniper damage increase? Gu Fei asked. The initial damage is double that of normal attacks. Apart from that, there's also a critical rate, Fei Lian replied. Critical rate? It ignores defense and deducts a percentage of the target's HP. Sniper has a 10% critical rate and a 10% critical rate at the start. I don't know how much the effect will increase after I increase my proficiency, Fei Lian explained. Gu Fei furrowed his brows. He had forgotten that every skill had a certain level of proficiency. In other words, without knowing the opponent's skill proficiency, it was impossible to accurately calculate the opponent's attack's damage. If he were to calculate it based on the highest proficiency, unfortunately, the parallel world had only just been created, and the official data was only at the beginner level. No player had reached the high proficiency level yet, so Fei Lian naturally didn't know about it. Little Rain, how much HP do you have? Gu Fei asked. After receiving the data, he did a quick calculation and sighed. It seemed like Little Rain's equipment wasn't very high quality. If the enemy's sniper had a critical effect, Little Rain would definitely die. If not, she would still be alive. However, if the enemy's proficiency level was higher, and the damage was increased by more than 100%, Little Rain would definitely die. What? You want to block his arrow? Fei Lian guessed Gu Fei's intentions. I'm not blocking it. She's blocking it, Gu Fei said. And then? Fei Lian asked. And then? And then we'll know where he is. Then we'll finish him off, Gu Fei said. Fei Lian stared at Gu Fei in disbelief. From his tone, it sounded like he could easily finish off the archer if he knew where he was. Didn't he tell him that the archer was a level 30 archer with top-tier equipment? Furthermore, you still have to get close to him. Your sorcerer's range is much lower than an archer's, right? If there's even the slightest movement, he'll shoot an arrow at you. Can you even dodge him? Fei Lian asked. Gu Fei smiled. When there's a slightest movement. Fei Lian was confused. Gu Fei wasn't in a hurry to explain. Little Rain was still urging him on. Why are you asking me about my defense? Why are you asking me about my HP? It's like this. Gu Fei explained. I've calculated his damage. With your defense and HP, there's a 90% chance that you'll be able to survive a single shot from him, and a 10% chance that you'll be killed instantly. Oh, then I'll just rush up and kill him. He can't kill me instantly anyways. I'll just go up and kill him with my axe, Little Rain said. How are you going to get close? If you're not dead, then he'll shoot you again and you'll be dead too, Gu Fei said, wiping away his sweat. That's right, Little Rain said. Then what do we do? You attract his attention, and I'll take the opportunity to sneak around and attack him from the other side, Gu Fei said. You're despicable, Little Rain said. Despicable? This is a tactic, a diversion, understand? Gu Fei said. Then what if I get killed instantly? Little Rain asked. Gu Fei was afraid of this question, so he said embarrassedly, then I know his position. I'll go up and avenge you. All right, let's do that. Little Rain replied. This girl was really simple. If it was anyone else, they would definitely question Gu Fei. How could a mere mage have the confidence to kill a level 30 archer? Gu Fei had been having a headache trying to convince others. But who knew that it would be so easy for him to deal with Little Rain? When I say yes, get up, Gu Fei said. Understood. The surroundings were once again quiet. Gu Fei lay quietly on the grass, waiting for an opportunity. Fei Lian obviously didn't know that Gu Fei and Little Rain had already discussed their tactics. He whistled at Gu Fei, and Gu Fei turned his head to look at him. What are you going to do? Fei Lian asked. Just lie there obediently, Gu Fei said with a smile. At this moment, the calm surface of the lake suddenly rippled. The mountain wind that would blow from time to time suddenly blew, blowing from the surface of the lake to the shore. The dense grass began to shake under the wind. Get up! Gu Fei sent a message to Little Rain. Whoosh! Little Rain stood up, and the sound of an arrow whistled through the air. Although Xiao Yu quickly wanted to shrink her body back, she was still unable to dodge. She was different from Gu Fei and Fei Lian. She was hiding behind the tree stump, and her opponents knew exactly where she was, so they were always ready to attack. Ah, she! Fei Lian turned his head and shouted at Gu Fei. Huh? Where is she? Gu Fei, who was not far from him, had already disappeared. All that was left was a piece of grass that swayed in the wind. Fei Lian suddenly understood what Gu Fei meant when he said to take advantage of the wind. Only when he moved would his opponent not be able to determine his position. However, he could have used this opportunity to escape. Why would he challenge a level 30 archer? Fei Lian's gaze finally fell on Little Rain. It seemed that Little Rain was not unlucky enough to activate the 10% chance. The shot did not kill her instantly, and she hid behind the tree stump again. Fei Lian thought to himself. They could have taken advantage of the wind to crawl away, but there was nothing around the tree stump. The warrior could not use this method. Gu Fei wanted to kill the archer because he wanted to help the warrior escape. However, on one hand, he wanted to help the warrior escape, but on the other hand, he wanted the warrior to be bait. Wasn't this person a little too contradictory? The conflicted Gu Fei had already circled around to the back of the hill. He had seen the arrow clearly and determined the opponent's position. At the same time, he saw that Little Rain was not dead, which made him feel very relieved. Right now, all he had to do was get close to the guy who shot the arrow and kill him. Gu Fei could already see the moving figure in the forest at the top of the hill. This guy actually knew how to change his position after shooting. How cunning! Unfortunately, the more cunning guy had already circled behind him. Chapter 35. The archer who did the sneak attack looked like a thief, and he was very sneaky. When everyone heard about the treasure chest, they simply followed behind Gu Fei and Jun Rain. Only this guy occupied a high vantage point and watched from afar, waiting for an opportunity to launch a sneak attack. This was not to Gu Fei's liking. To deal with such a character, Gu Fei's plan was to give him a taste of his own medicine. He would personally sneak attack him and let him know what it felt like to be attacked. The wind hadn't stopped yet, and the rustling of the grass completely covered the sound of Gu Fei's footsteps. Gu Fei lowered his body and slowly advanced through the grass, his eyes fixed on the archer's silhouette. The archer jogged along the hilltop, changed his position, and then immediately nocked an arrow and stood there motionlessly. Not bad at all. Gu Fei praised him in his heart. He was as quiet as a virgin, but this was for the best. If it was someone else who wasn't professional and kept looking around, Gu Fei would be afraid of being discovered. And so, with the sound of the wind, Gu Fei approached the archer step by step, and finally arrived behind him. The archer didn't seem to notice him at all, and continued to stare at the hillside. Gu Fei looked in the direction that the archer was looking at, and saw the wooden stump with the treasure chest, as well as the grass that he and Fei Lian had been hiding in. The corner of Gu Fei's mouth curled into a smile, and he raised his magic staff high in the air and swung it down. The sound of the wind was too strange, and the archer finally noticed it. But before he could turn his head, The magic staff had already struck the artery in his neck. There was an acupuncture point on the carotid artery, so it didn't take much strength to knock someone unconscious. The game's simulation was very realistic, but the attack in the game was calculated based on the character's data. Gu Fei believed that his attack power wasn't enough to knock someone unconscious, so as soon as the stick came down, he immediately followed it up with a kick. He wanted to kick this person down and beat him until he couldn't get back up. Unexpectedly, there was a hillside in front of the man. He heard the sound and turned around, but he was kicked. His body tilted and fell to the ground. Then, he used the momentum to roll down the hill. Along the way, Gu Fei was worried that this guy would have turned into an idiot by the time he rolled down the hill. However, looking at his current momentum, what was more worrisome was that if they didn't stop him, he would just roll into the lake. He quickly opened his friend list and sent a message to Xiaoyu. "He's coming. Catch him." "Who is it?" Xiaoyu asked. "The enemy who shot you," Gu Fei said. Following that, Little Yu popped her head out from behind the wooden pillar. Gu Fei waved at her, but when he saw that she did not respond, he quickly sent another message. "Just stand there and wait. We'll be there soon." As he spoke, Gu Fei also hurried down the hill. Little Yu stood next to the wooden pillar and raised her head. Sure enough, not long after, she saw something roll down. Could this be the person that Gu Fei was talking about? Little Yu calmed herself down and looked at the thing. After confirming that it was a person, she jumped over and raised her leg. She stepped on the person and sent a message to Gu Fei. "Got it." The person who was stepped on didn't react at all. It seemed that he had already fainted after hitting his head on the tree. "Okay," Gu Fei replied as he hurried over. Little Yu was looking in his direction. When she saw another thing roll towards her, she was shocked. "There's another one." She had just been hit by a sniper. Although she had rested behind the wooden pillar for a while, her HP recovery was limited. Now that she had encountered another enemy, she was a bit lacking in confidence. Fei Lian saw that there was movement here, and had already come out from the bushes. Little Yu saw that there was help. She didn't care who it was and immediately shouted, "Hurry, there's someone else." The Fei Lian was naturally shocked. He quickly drew his bow and charged over. When he looked up, he saw a figure riding a horse towards him from the hillside. The figure raised his bow and fired an arrow. Gu Fei was already close enough to see the two people's faces. He was just about to greet them when the light in the forest was dim, and they didn't recognize him. The Fei Lian raised his bow and fired an arrow at him. Gu Fei quickly dodged and caught the arrow. He said angrily, "It's me." "Oh." Little Yu recognized Gu Fei's voice and quickly stopped the Fei Lian. "Don't shoot. He's one of us." The Fei Lian didn't even have the intention to shoot a second arrow. He didn't expect his opponent to catch it with his bare hands. He was still in a daze. Gu Fei rushed out of the forest and returned the arrow to the Fei Lian. He smiled at them and said, "It's fine now." The Fei Lian caught it in a daze. He didn't know what to do. Little Yu didn't notice these details at all. She happily yelled, "Treasure chest, treasure chest." She then hugged the treasure chest and said, "Our quest is finally complete." "Quest?" The Fei Lian was confused. "That's right. Our guild quest is to reclaim the treasure chest that was stolen." Little Yu raised the treasure chest high in the air. The Fei Lian's face fell. If he had known that it was a quest item, he wouldn't have tried to steal it. Then he remembered that he didn't come here with good intentions. It was only because of the sudden appearance of this archer that he ended up standing with these two people. Now that the problem has been solved, the Fei Lian couldn't help but take a step back. However, Gu Fei clearly didn't take it to heart. Little Yu was too careless and had long forgotten about it. As a result, the two of them didn't even pay attention to his existence. The Fei Lian let out a sigh of relief when he saw that the two of them weren't hostile towards him. His eyes began to wander around the person under Little Yu's feet. This person was an archer with exquisite equipment. Coincidentally, the Fei Lian was an archer. The Fei Lian gulped. "Fei Lian, aren't you an archer? Look at this guy's equipment. Can you use it?" Gu Fei said. "What?" The Fei Lian was shocked. Did he hear wrong? Even though these two weren't archers, this was still exquisite equipment. They could sell it on the market, and by the exquisite equipment they needed for their classes. It would be the same. The Fei Lian looked at Gu Fei, then at Little Yu. However, the two of them ignored him. Little Yu was holding the treasure chest and studying it. She tried to open it but she couldn't. Why can't I open it? Little Yu complained as she smashed the chest against the wooden pillar. Don't smash it, don't smash it. Let me see. Gu Fei also went over to study the chest. The Fei Lian was petrified. Did these two not care about exquisite equipment at all? Were they going to give it all to him? The archer on the ground had long since been kicked to the side by Little Yu. The Fei Lian carefully crouched down and approached the two. They were still studying the chest. The Fei Lian finally relaxed. He flipped the person on the ground over and reached for the bow in his hand. It's probably a quest item. It's a chest that can't be opened. Gu Fei couldn't find any mechanism in the chest. He turned around and saw the Fei Lian flipping the person over. Wait, Gu Fei said. I knew it. The Fei Lian was furious. He should have said so earlier if he didn't want to give it to me. Why did he have to make himself happy first and then disappoint him? This guy was just trying to torture me. I thought he was being magnanimous. The Fei Lian was very unhappy. However, the loot belonged to the Fei Lian, so he had nothing to say. He could only retreat to the side with a dark expression. I know this person. Gu Fei smiled bitterly. Huh? The Fei Lian was shocked. Yutian Shenming, Gu Fei said. This name sounds familiar. Fei Lian was a veteran player as well. He used to play as a mage, Gu Fei said. Yes, yes, yes. The Fei Lian nodded. There was someone like that. It's him? Gu Fei nodded. Let's wake him up first. Little Yu, carry him to the river, Gu Fei said. Why aren't you carrying him? Little Yu was still studying the chest. I can't carry him. Gu Fei smiled bitterly. Gu Fei felt humiliated when he said that. It's a game. Gu Fei comforted himself. I'll do it. Xiao Yu walked over complacently, lifting Imperial Heaven Shenming up with one hand, and asked while walking. You said you know this person? Why was this lass's train of thought always half a beat too slow? Gu Fei nodded as he thought about it. Then why did he shoot us? Little Yu said. There might be a misunderstanding. Let's wake him up first. As Gu Fei said this, the three of them reached the lake. Little Yu threw Yutian Shenming to the ground. Gu Fei scooped up some water and splashed it on his face. The Fei Lian finally realized something. Yutian Shenming was unconscious. How did Gu Fei do it? There were no skills that could cause a dizzy state. Even if there were, the dizzy state in the game was different from the dizzy state in humans. The dizzy state was just a system that immobilized the character. After splashing the water, Yutian Shenming finally woke up. He slowly opened his eyes and suddenly came back to his senses. He rolled on the ground and began to knock his bow. The water that had flowed into his nostrils came into play, causing him to sneeze a few times. Don't bother, it's me, Gu Fei said. Ah, Qianli. Yutian Shenming recognized Gu Fei as well. What's going on? He put away his bow and stood up. He touched the bumps on his head and his neck where Gu Fei had hit him. The pain was still there. Was it sap? There's already a level 36 thief. Yutian Shenming was shocked. Players like him have been grinding day and night, but he still hadn't reached level 31. Now that a level 36 character had appeared out of nowhere, how was he supposed to deal with it? Ahem. Gu Fei coughed. He didn't answer the question. Instead he asked, What are you doing here? I'm doing a quest to protect the treasure chest. As he said this, he saw the treasure chest in Little Yu's hands and smiled bitterly. Why are you hugging it? It's a quest item. There's nothing inside. Only the players who received the quest to retrieve the treasure chest can use it. However, Little Yu didn't put it down. Instead, she hugged it even tighter. Could it be that you guys? Yutian Shenming was stunned. What's going on? The quest in this game is to lure two groups of players to kill each other? Although Gu Fei didn't have much experience with online games, he knew that there were no quests in online games that force players to kill each other. As soon as Gu Fei finished speaking, Little Yu cried out, Ah! Sister July and Sister Luoluo are all dead. Chapter 36. It started to drizzle in Cloud City again. Gu Fei and Xiao Yu rushed to Amethyst's office. Xiao Yu was still hugging her treasure chest tightly. Of course, Imperial Sky Shenming was not willing to let them have the treasure chest so easily. But the problem was that Xiaoyu was less than 10 centimeters away from him. He was an archer who needed to increase the distance between them to have an advantage, while Xiaoyu was a warrior whose explosive power increased the closer she was to you. The only way to widen the distance was to the left, right, or back. At that time, Yutian Shenming had Gu Fei on his left and Fei Lian on his right. Behind him was the bottomless cloud suburb lake. More importantly, the treasure chest wasn't in his hands at that time. In the end, everyone went their separate ways. The treasure chest was still in the hands of whoever had it. All of them seemed to have a tacit understanding to forget about this matter. In Amethyst's office, the oppressive atmosphere made Gu Fei feel like he couldn't breathe. Once again, he walked to the window and casually pushed open the 2 windows. The girls didn't look happy at all. They didn't feel any better just because Xiaoyu brought back the treasure chest. This was because the blow they suffered was too great. Of the 7 teams that went out, apart from Gu Fei and Xiaoyu's team, the others were all annihilated. Xiaoyu only called out July and Luoluo. But that was just to pick out the representative characters. It was heartbreaking to suffer such a heavy blow on their first guild mission. Gu Fei could also understand a little bit of their thoughts. For a long time, male players dominated the game, while female players were mostly like flower vases. These girls gathered together to prove something, but unfortunately, they didn't get off to a good start. After being depressed for so long, it was about time for someone to explode, Gu Fei thought. For example, Despicable. The first to explode was just as Gu Fei expected. It was the Grandmaster of Combat called fiercely. He got up and kicked a chair away, slammed the table and started cursing. If you're so good, come at me with real weapons. What's the point of sneaking up on me? After cursing for almost 10 minutes, Gu Fei had a rough idea of what was going on. This girl was killed by a thief who had sneaked up behind her and stabbed her in the back. She didn't even know what the other party looked like, and she was now strongly criticizing the other party for not being honorable. In this regard, Gu Fei, who had just carried out a sneak attack, could only snort in disdain. He also preferred to fight face to face, but he didn't despise sneak attacks like Fiercely did. He even felt that sneak attacks were a higher level of knowledge. Not only did he have to study the opponent's mentality, but he also had to grasp the timing of the attack, and at the same time, he had to make a fatal strike. Compared to defeating the opponent face to face, launching a sneak attack to deal a fatal blow required more skill. Fiercely's outburst stirred up the emotions of the girls, and a lively discussion began. Gu Fei spent a lot of effort to search for useful information, but the word he heard the most was instant kill. Of the 12 girls that went out, 11 were insta-killed, and the other one was insta-killed. The reason was that the warrior's whirlwind slash wasn't aimed at her, and she wanted to rush forward to be in the same boat as her sister. In the end, she was killed. Next to instant kill, a few high-frequency words appeared: backstab, whirlwind slash, and snipe. Although the levels of the girls weren't high, it wasn't easy for them to kill a player in an instant. Combined with the Yutian Shenming that he and Little Rain had encountered, 3 names appeared in Gu Fei's mind corresponding to these 3 high-frequency words: Sword Demon, Unscathed in Battle, Yutian Shenming. Yutian Shenming could easily insta-kill normal characters, so Sword Demon and Unscathed in Battle could only be stronger than him. Originally, with the appearance of the Sword Demon, it was definitely easy to describe him verbally, but because the thief had hidden an ambush and launched backstab, the girls that died to him had no idea what this thief looked like. Gu Fei felt a bit of a headache. If this was true, then he was stuck in the middle. Emotionally, Gu Fei was more inclined towards the mercenary group. After all, he felt that no matter what, he couldn't integrate into this all-girl guild. If it wasn't for the minimum number of people, Gu Fei would have left a long time ago. However, from a logical point of view, it wasn't clear who was right and who was wrong in this matter. It was completely the system's quest design that threw both sides on opposite sides. It seemed that the system should have issued 2 quests at the same time. On one hand, it required the guild to snatch back the treasure chest, and on the other hand, it issued a quest to protect the treasure chest. And Gu Fei had hit the jackpot. The two sides that received this quest just happened to be the two teams that he was mingling with. However, right now it was just a guess. Whether it was them or not, he still had to find out. Saying this, Gufei suddenly stood up. I remembered something. I'll be leaving for a bit. GGGGG. The girls continued to discuss. No one paid attention to Gufei, and no one heard him speak. Gufei laughed self-deprecatingly, turned around and walked out. Where are you going? Someone suddenly asked. Gufei turned around and saw that it was Little Rain calling him. His heart warmed. As expected of someone who had just gone through life and death with him. This girl might be stupid, but she's still a brother. She still remembers me. After thinking about it, he smiled faintly and said, I remembered something. I'll be leaving for a bit. After saying that, he pulled the door open and left the guild. Only then did the girls notice that Gufei had left. Only then did they remember that Gufei and Little Rain actually came back with a chest. They quickly surrounded Little Rain and asked all sorts of questions. After leaving the guild, Gufei opened his friends list and saw that the 5 guys from the mercenary group were all there. Gufei remembered that since the day he met Sword Demon, he had never seen Sword Demon not online. An expert was an expert. Naturally, among the 5 people, Gufei was relatively familiar with Sword Demon. If he wanted to understand the situation, he naturally looked for him. Where? Gufei sent a message. Little Ray Bar. Sword Demon replied. Little Ray Bar was not far from here. It was just 2 streets away. Gufei quickly rushed over there. After entering the door and greeting Little Ray, he went straight into the private room that they were used to. When he opened the curtain, he was immediately startled. Not only was Sword Demon there, but Han family young master and brother Yu were also there. Qianli is here. Brother Yu and Gufei greeted. What a rare guest. Come and sit. Han family young master was still the first to speak. Gufei smiled and didn't say anything. Sword Demon moved to the side and made room for him, indicating for him to sit. Where are Wu Shang and Yutian? Gufei asked. Who knows, probably leveling. Sword Demon said. You bunch of leveling maniacs. You don't know how to enjoy life. You have to know that we play games to supplement our lives. Our empty and lonely spirits will be perfectly restored here. This is the enjoyment of beauty. Han family young master said. Did he drink too much? Gufei asked Sword Demon. Sword Demon lowered his head and rubbed his temples. No, he's just like that. Gufei looked at Sword Demon sympathetically and continued to ask the 3. Are there any quests today? Han family young master held his wine glass and smiled. Normal quests are not worth our time. What normal quests? Gufei immediately asked. Go to the mercenary building and see for yourself. Han family young master said. You didn't take any quests? Didn't I say that they are not worth our time? Han family young master said impatiently. Gufei was in a daze. If that's the case, then it wasn't a mercenary group that attacked Amethyst. Gufei let out a long sigh of relief. It was great that he didn't have to be stuck in the middle. As for who the attacker was, Gufei was indifferent to it. It was an online game. All they did was fight and kill all day long. Moreover, this was a system setting that forced the 2 parties together. There was no enmity or grudge between them. In the end, it was just that Amethyst wasn't as skilled and failed the quest, while the other party succeeded. If these girls still wanted to take revenge, then that was a matter for later. There was no need to think about it for now. Moreover, whether or not they would bring him to play was still a problem. Gufei relaxed and lifted the curtain, shouting outside. Little Ray, bring me a glass of wine. Gufei's joyous expression caused the other 3 to scratch their heads in confusion. Han family young master said unhappily. You look like you're happy that you didn't get a quest. No, it's not because of that. Gufei quickly said. Then what's the matter? Han family young master said. You're acting a little weird today. How so? Gufei asked. You don't look like you don't come without a reason. Han family young master said. No way. Gufei quickly said. I'm just here to sit with everyone. Gufei did not want to tell the truth, because it meant that he would have to tell them that he had joined the Amethyst Rebirth. Gufei wasn't a fireball. Mingling with a group of girls wasn't a good thing for him. It was something that was hard to talk about. What are you sitting for? We're not that close yet. Han family young master said. Damn, you're being too direct. Gu Fei was depressed. It was true that they had only known each other for less than 3 days. And this was the 3rd time they had met. However, it was a little immature for him to be so direct. Sword Demon shook his head and said, No, he's just like this. Sword Demon, speak up if you have something to say. Han family young master slammed the table. Sword Demon shook his head again. Hey, I'm just like this. Gu Fei finally realized that something was wrong with Sword Demon. He said blankly, What's going on? Brother, you smiled bitterly. Can't you see? They're both drunk. Damn. Gu Fei was depressed. They're both drunk, why are you still wasting time with them? They're not letting me out. Look at them. One on the left, and the other on the right. Brother, you smiled bitterly. Gu Fei stood up. Sword Demon. Little Ray asked you to serve the drinks. Oh, coming. Sword Demon stood up and walked out swaying. Let's go. Gu Fei shook his head at Brother Yu. That's easy. Brother Yu sighed. Great. I have something to ask you. Gu Fei and Brother Yu walked out of the private room and found a seat in the bar. Chapter 37. Han family young master's stubborn voice came from the private room. Sword Demon. If you have something to say it out loud. Sword Demon wasn't even in the private room at this time. He was lying in front of the counter and begging Little Ray. Where's the wine? Didn't you ask me to get the wine? Give me the wine. Little Ray smiled bitterly and looked at Gu Fei and Brother Yu. He knew that Sword Demon was their friend. Brother Yu wanted to get up, but was stopped by Gu Fei. He looked around and saw 2 warriors wearing beginner's equipment at the table next to him. Hey bro. Gu Fei called out to the 2. The 2 turned around. Do me a favor. Carry that guy to the back of the bar and throw him away. I'm a mage, and I really don't have the strength. Gu Fei pointed at Sword Demon and said to the 2 warriors. The 2 were at a loss and didn't move. Gu Fei thought for a while and took out 2 gold coins from his pocket. Help me. The 2 warriors' eyes lit up. For normal people, it didn't matter if you were a mage or not. Gold coins were beautiful things that they loved. This wasn't something that a beginner player could easily see. In fact, Gu Fei was already a rich man in the game, because of the mercenary business he had done yesterday. The 2 warriors took the gold coins and stood up. They immediately went over to carry Sword Demon. Sword Demon was so drunk that he couldn't even straighten his back. He didn't have the slightest ability to resist, and was quickly carried out of the bar by the 2. After a while, the 2 returned and looked at Gu Fei excitedly. Brother, is there anyone else you want to throw out? No thank you, Gu Fei said to the 2. Is this okay? Brother, you looked a little worried. It's okay, don't worry, Gu Fei said. At this time, the song of the Han family young master came from the private room. Gu Fei immediately had the impulse to call the 2 little warriors back. He looks like a cultured person. He speaks like he's reciting a poem. Why? Gu Fei mumbled. Looks like you don't know. Brother, you laughed. Han family young master. This is his new name in the game. In the previous game, his name was Drunkard. Is that Sword Demon called Smoker? Gu Fei said. I think so before the Infernal Realm. Brother, you nodded seriously. That's true. Gu Fei was completely convinced. Then why did you change the name? About that, I heard that it's because the inseparable Smoker and Drunkard duo is always used by Fujoshis as a joke. That's why the Sword Ghoul refuses to call himself Smoker when he plays Infernal Realm. In this parallel world, Gongzi simply changed the name. Brother, you explained. Oh, Gu Fei responded with a long sigh. In the end he asked, what are Fujoshis? It's a strange creature. Brother, you said. Gu Fei seemed to have a complicated expression. He didn't ask anymore. He waved his hand at Little Ray. Little Ray, give me 2 cups of the most expensive wine. There's no need to spend so much money, right? Brother, you was shocked. As an intelligence expert, he was very clear about the price of the most expensive wine. It's fine. Gu Fei waved his hand. When the wine was brought over, he asked for the price. Gu Fei sucked in a breath of cold air. It's really expensive. Put it on the Han family young master's tab. Little Ray was stunned. Isn't he still here? Put all of our table on his tab. Gu Fei said. Oh, Little Ray didn't say much. He wasn't afraid of not receiving the money, This kind of behavior of taking something without paying was considered fraud. One could complain to the system. In order to protect this very realistic business system, the system took very good measures in this aspect. In front of the system god, even the strongest player was just a paper tiger. You're too bad. Brother, you looked at Gu Fei and said, "You're really good at hiding your true colors. Drink. It's a rare opportunity." Gu Fei held the cup. Brother, you took a sip and clicked his tongue in wonder. "It's really different. It's worth it." "Yes. Especially since I don't have to pay for it." Gu Fei picked up the cup and drank it in one gulp. Little Ray, another cup. Brother, you. By the way, didn't you say you had something to ask me? Brother, you asked when he saw that Gu Fei had already picked up the second cup. He was worried that Gu Fei would soon be drunk if this continued. Yes, there is. Gu Fei put down his glass. In this game, would there be such a mission? It would be given to two people to accept it, and then both parties would stand on opposite sides, such as. Gu Fei was afraid that his explanation was not clear enough, so he wanted to give another example. Unexpectedly, Brother, you had already nodded. That's right, it would be like that. And this is a major feature of the parallel world. Generally speaking, guild quests that involve many people have a higher chance of receiving a two-way quest. The chances of receiving a solo quest is lower. The content of a two-way quest is mostly about stealing and protecting. Brother Yu's information was quite accurate. The situation of the reborn amethyst's quest was clear at a glance. But Gu Fei still had some doubts in his mind. He immediately told Brother Yu about the reborn amethyst situation. Brother Yu laughed when he heard that. They got it wrong. The quest information they gathered from the forum was to look for the treasure chest, while the quest they received was to retrieve the treasure chest. The two quests sound similar, but the content is different. For a quest like retrieving the treasure chest, of course, no one would write a strategy because the opponent is different every time. There's no fixed strategy to follow. That makes sense. Gu Fei listened and nodded. He raised his head and downed another cup. Little Ray, drink. Can you hold your liquor well? Brother Yu was worried. Don't worry. Gu Fei smiled. I'll only drink one cup. I'm not like those two. Brother Yu nodded and asked, why are you concerned about this? Have you joined a guild? No, of course not. Gu Fei hurriedly said. He hung out with a bunch of girls. If word got out, he would be a laughingstock. In the end, he made up a small lie. It was basically an adaptation of what happened at Yunjiao Lakeside. He described himself as the kind of guy who had nothing better to do, lying behind and watching people snatch the treasure chest. Yunjiao Lakeside? Heh. Brother Yu, the king of information, obviously knew what kind of place it was. When he heard that Gu Fei went there, he immediately smiled ambiguously. Just passing by, just passing by. Gu Fei hurriedly said. Oh right, I also met Yutian Shenming. He was doing some treasure chest protection quest. The last sentence was purely to change the topic. Gu Fei originally did not intend to mention Yutian Shenming. Oh, he joined a guild? I've never heard of that. Brother Yu said. His guild seems to be pretty strong. They wiped out everyone who came to steal the treasure chest. I heard that if it wasn't whirlwind slash, snipe or concealed backstab, they all sound like experts. Gu Fei said. Oh, they aren't weak. There's probably only one guild like this in Cloud City. Brother Yu said. Which guild? Unstoppable 4Cs. What a lame name. Brother Yu laughed. In the game, a guild with a lame name isn't too weak. Why? Think about it. With such a lame name, a lot of people would definitely think of it. If he could build it, then that means his guild was built quite early. If he built it early, then he would have a longer time to develop. He most likely won't be too weak. Brother Yu said. That makes sense. Gu Fei had learned a lot today. As the saying goes, listening to a gentleman's words is better than studying for 10 years. It seemed like he needed to talk more with Brother Yu and increase his knowledge of the game. The game wasn't life. It was better to avoid mistakes like when he tried to intercept them at the lakeside, but was forced to the ground. Okay. Gu Fei finished his third cup and stood up. There's nothing else, I'm leaving. See you later. Brother Yu nodded and watched as Gu Fei left the bar. Little Ray. Brother Yu called out. What is it? Little Ray walked over. Brother Yu pointed at the wine on the table. This is the most expensive wine. Give me a bottle and I'll take it away. Little Ray was stunned for a while and finally asked, Are you putting it on Master's tab? Of course. Brother Yu had a calm smile on his face. But don't tell him I ordered it. After leaving the bar, Gu Fei returned to Amethyst. He had already understood the whole story, and thought that it was necessary to go back and inform them, so that they would not complain about it, and not know what was going on. As a member of the guild, he had the authority to open the door of the guild. When Gu Fei pushed open the door and entered, the girls immediately turned to look at him. Their gazes were different from before. They had heard the story of Yunjiao Lakeside. It could be said that it was Gu Fei who solved the problem. However, there was a big flaw in the story. Gu Fei and the archer who ambushed him knew each other. Currently, the guild only knew 3 things about Gu Fei: high level, broken equipment, and random points. The last 2 points were enough for people to discriminate against him. It was hard to believe that such a sorcerer could defeat a level 30 archer. Now that it was said that Gu Fei knew this person, people could not help but suspect that there was something fishy going on. The fishy content was that the 2 of them worked together to build up Gu Fei's image, so that he could gain a foothold in this girl's guild. Fiercely was the one who came up with this hypothesis. She also gave another example. How could such a trashy sorcerer have such a high level? Other than having a group of equally high-level friends who were good friends with him. Was there any other way? Besides, the story was told by Xiaoyu. As for Xiaoyu's attributes, needless to say, even if there was an obvious problem, she would not have been able to see it. In addition, Xiaoyu was picked by Qinli to be in the same group as him when he was drunk. Could this also be intentional? In short, nothing could stand up to analysis, and the girls were very attentive to details. One after another, they analyzed Gu Fei, who had originally saved Xiaoyu and snatched back a treasure chest, into a shrewd, calculating super pervert. In the end, the girls were divided into 3 factions. Fiercely was the most convinced that Gu Fei was also a big bad guy with bad intentions. As for those who disagreed with the girls' wild guesses, it was July Luoluo, and a few others. Xiaoyu was the only one who was completely at a loss. At this time, when Gu Fei entered the room, the members of the 3 factions all looked at him. When Gu Fei took 2 steps closer, everyone suddenly smelled a pungent smell of alcohol. Gu Fei, who already had a bad image, fell dozens of points in the hearts of the girls from the first faction. Even the girls from the second faction could not help but frown at this time. The guild's first operation had suffered a setback. Everyone was in pain, and this guy actually ran to drink. This was a bit too unkind. And Xiaoyu continued to be at a loss. What's that smell? What's that smell? Chapter 38. Gu Fei felt the resistance on the girls' faces, but he didn't think too much about it. After all, this group of girls always treated him like this. He took a few steps forward, and was about to talk about the information he had gathered. But the moment he opened his mouth, he let out a merciless burp. The smell of alcohol permeated the air, and the girls let out hissing sounds, as if they were avoiding the plague. Sorry. Gu Fei covered his mouth and laughed awkwardly. Okay, everyone disperse first. July clapped her hands. Sigh. Gu Fei said he still had something to say, but seeing everyone quickly fleeing, he didn't say it and only let out a deep sigh. Sigh, do you have something to say? Luoluo noticed Gu Fei's expression and stopped. At this time, there were only 3 people left in the room. July was always the last to leave the guild, and little Yu was still over there knocking on the treasure chest. This time, the guild quest we received should be the kind that goes both ways. Gu Fei told her about the situation he learned from Brother Yu. The 2 listened quietly, and July nodded. I know this, I'm not mistaken. Our quest is indeed to find the treasure chest. Gu Fei was startled. Someone is deliberately messing with us, not wanting us to complete the quest. July said, Oh, do you know who the other party is? Gu Fei asked. If you don't know, then I can tell you. This was Gu Fei's unspoken words. Unfortunately, July nodded. Unhindered. Oh, everyone knows. Gu Fei was a little disappointed. After all, he had gone out for nothing. The other party had already found out the news. I'm afraid this matter won't end here. Qianli, you have to be careful outside in the future, July said, and looked up and down at Gu Fei. Oh, you're not wearing the guild badge? That's fine. They definitely wouldn't think that there's a guy in my guild. July's smile looked very forced. What's going on? Gu Fei was puzzled. Reigning 4 seas. This guild has a conflict with us in the past. This quest is probably their revenge. So everyone be careful, July said. Oh, got it. Gu Fei glanced at little Yu, who was still hugging the treasure chest and fiddling with it. It seemed that she wouldn't stop until she smashed that thing into pieces. Then I'll be leaving. Gu Fei bade farewell to the other 3 and left the guild. Watching Gu Fei walk out, Luo glanced at July. You're not going to tell him about that? Forget it, he doesn't need to know. He's just a temporary member. It's better not to get involved. July said. Luo was very worried. I really didn't think that there would be such a coincidence. That person was also born in Cloud City like us. July was silent for a long time, then suddenly said, Luo, in the current mercenary group, is there anyone with outstanding strength? You want to find outsiders to help. Luo was a bit surprised. July sighed. With our current situation, we really can't compete with them. Don't forget the original reason you created this guild. You just wanted to gather a few girls who also like online games to play a simple game together. Luo said. Now things have changed, haven't they? July smiled bitterly. Who would have thought that there would be such a coincidence? There are so many main cities in the game. But this guy just happened to be born in the same city as us. I'm afraid this game won't be simple again. Now that there are so many girls following me, I have to think of a way to get through this first hurdle first. Luo didn't say anything. Mercenary group. I don't think there's a mercenary group that can compete with the number 1 guild in Cloud City right now. If it's not possible, then find a few more. July said. I know you're not afraid of spending money. Luo smiled bitterly. The problem is, mercenary group? I know a powerful one. Little Yu suddenly said. July and Luo were startled. The two were so focused on discussing that they forgot that there was a girl playing with a treasure chest next to them. Little Yu, you know? July laughed. What could this muddle-headed girl remember? I heard about it when I was doing solo quests. It's a quest to capture the bandit leader Sua Tuesday. This quest was completed by someone who asked for this mercenary group's help. Little Yu said seriously. July and Luo looked at each other. Capturing the bandit leader Sua Tu was currently considered to be the most difficult quest that could be received, but it was impossible to complete. Just by entering Black Dragon Cave, they had to start killing monsters that were higher level than them. Normal characters would be lucky if they could last 5 minutes. A while ago, they heard that someone gathered a large group of people to fight together. They persisted all the way until they saw the boss, but in the end, they were all slaughtered and sent back to the city. From then on, no one dared to try again. Did they complete this quest? When was it? Luo asked. Completing such a difficult quest should be big news, but she hadn't heard of it at all. I think it was yesterday. Little Yu replied. Oh, Luo was relieved. So it was yesterday. Then the news probably hadn't spread yet. What mercenary group is it? July began to feel that there was a chance. This mercenary group seemed to be very strong. As long as it wasn't a mercenary group raised by 4 seas, it would be fine. I forgot. Little Yu said. How many people? Who's the leader of the mercenary group? July asked again. Little Yu thought hard. Forget it. Luo laughed. Don't ask Little Yu, I'll go ask around. Go. July's face was solemn. This mercenary group had become their biggest hope. In Cloud City, Gu Fei was strolling around while pondering over a problem. July said that there was a grudge between them and 4 seas. For them to go out of their way to mess up a small quest, this grudge must be quite serious. Looking at July's expression, it seemed that she didn't want to say too much, so Gu Fei didn't pursue the matter. The parallel world hadn't been in operation for too long, so it didn't seem to have created much hatred. This grudge must have happened in the game, or maybe it happened in real life. Gu Fei wanted to ask Brother Yu again, but he remembered that he had just asked him a few minutes ago. If he went back in the blink of an eye, He would be a bit embarrassed, so he held back. Thinking about how July and the others gathered information, Gu Fei felt that he needed to learn it, so he left the game. After logging into the search website, Gu Fei didn't know where to start. He typed in July, and the search results were obvious. Then he accidentally typed in Luola's name, Heartless Fallen Flowers, and a novel-like experience in the game appeared before Gu Fei's eyes. In this story, Heartless Fallen Flowers was just a side character, a person who did odd jobs in the main plot. There were two main characters. One was July Wildfire, and the other was called Non-Smiler. Non-Smiler actually loved to laugh. The opening of the novel shocked Gu Fei, and he couldn't help but feel that writers nowadays were too talented. Gu Fei wasn't here to appreciate novels, so after a quick browse, he understood the whole story. This was a story of love and hate, lies and truth, deceiving and being deceived. It was a very common story. In the story, July was passionate and generous, but in the end, she was deceived by Non-Smiler and left with nothing. Gu Fei really wondered if this was the calm and collected guild leader July he knew. But the climax of the story didn't end there. After July left the game, another character appeared out of nowhere, using even better methods to deceive Non-Smiler. Rumor had it that this was July Wildfire's rebirth, returning in a more advanced form to take revenge. Non-Smiler, who was filled with hatred, finally chose to leave. After all, it was an online game, and the story ended there. But now in the parallel world, it seemed like a new chapter had to be written. Gu Fei guessed that the person July had a grudge with was this Non-Smiler. In the game, Luolua left the guild and came to the tavern for solo quests. There were many types of quests in the parallel world, like the ones that could be randomly picked up on the street. These were called NPC story quests. Once done once, there wouldn't be a second time, and the rewards were more generous. The solo quests that players were talking about were the quests that were refreshed by the tavern system every hour for players to pick up. These quests were limited first come, first served, but players were allowed to pick them up repeatedly. Using quests to gain experience mainly relied on these solo quests. The quest to capture the bandit leader Suatu was also refreshed here, and was known as the most difficult solo quest at the moment. It was always easier for girls to get information. Luoluo casually asked a few players, but their reactions were the same as when Luoluo first heard about it. They were very surprised that a mercenary group could complete the quest to capture the bandit leader Suatu's day. It seemed that only one day had passed, and the news hadn't spread. Luoluo thought as she left the tavern, and came to the mercenary building. There were two halls in the mercenary building. The East Hall was where the system released mercenary quests. Most mercenary groups would pick up quests here. The West Hall, on the other hand, was where players sought help. This was the place that reflected the true nature of a mercenary group, taking money and helping people get rid of disasters. Professional mercenary groups would pick up quests here. And the place where one could directly see the strength of each mercenary group was the records of the two halls. Luoluo came to the records of the West Hall and patiently flipped through it. Finally, in the completed quests, Luoluo found the words "Capture the bandit leader Suatu." A mage received this quest, but was unable to complete it, so he went to the mercenary building to ask for help at a high price. The date was yesterday. The mercenary group that accepted this quest was. Luoluo swiped her index finger across the records and found the information she needed. Child Elite Group. Mercenary Leader, Han Family Young Master. Chapter 39. Han Family Young Master. Luoluo mumbled this name. Most experts wouldn't easily change their ID no matter what game they played. This wasn't a habit that only experts had. Many normal players had this preference too. A famous ID would have a lot of rallying power. And this was a huge intangible asset in the game, especially when organizing a guild or a mercenary group. Hearing Little Rain talk about such a powerful mercenary group, Luoluo started to wonder if this group was created by some expert in the game. Han Family Young Master wasn't a legendary expert's ID, but it wasn't the first time Luoluo had seen it. On the official cleric experience leaderboards, it was a very high name. Luoluo, who was also a cleric, obviously noticed it. As she continued to search for information in the record book, Luo noticed a line of words. In the description of this quest, there was a final evaluation of the mercenary group by the player who issued the quest. There was only one sentence: strongest mage. Strongest mage. On the current level leaderboards, the number 1 mage was called drifting. However, in this parallel world, where leveling up required a lot of experience, it wasn't realistic to rely on leveling up to gain an advantage. Equipment and skill proficiency were factors that reflected strength. Therefore, the so-called strongest mage might not be drifting, who had the highest level. There was no point in guessing, so Luo decided to contact this mercenary group first. She opened up her friends list and searched for Han Family Young Master. Seeing that he was online, Luo immediately added him as a friend. Hello. Luo sent a message. After about half a minute, the other party replied. Okay. Child Elite Group? Luo asked. That's right. I have something to ask of you. Can we talk face to face? Luo asked. Little Ray's bar. Okay, I'll be there soon. Luo happily closed the chat window. The Han Family Young Master's neat and tidy writing style left a good impression on her. In her opinion, a person who spoke in such a simple and straightforward manner would definitely not procrastinate when it came to handling matters. Little Ray's bar was famous. Although Luo had never been there, she knew where it was. After crossing a few streets, he arrived at the back of Little Ray's bar. In this deserted alley, there was a person lying on the ground. Luo hurriedly walked forward. A strong smell of alcohol permeated the air. This person was snoring and sleeping soundly. It turned out that he had drunk too much. Luo frowned and ignored him. She took a detour and entered Little Ray's bar. The enthusiastic Little Ray immediately greeted her. Miss, what would you like to order? Oh, I'm looking for someone, Luo said. Who are you looking for? Little Ray was still enthusiastic. Han Family Young Master, Luo answered. At the same time, she looked at the legendary Little Ray strangely. Could it be that he knew all the guests in the bar? However, Little Ray pointed to a private room with a smile. Over there. Oh, thank you. Luo was a little absent-minded. She thanked him and walked to the private room over there. Raising her hand to lift the curtain hanging on the door frame, Luo saw a person sitting inside. The Han Family Young Master's fairy-like appearance would amaze anyone who saw it. Luo couldn't help but be stunned for a moment before she asked. Han Family Young Master? Heartless falling flowers? Han Family Young Master asked. Luo nodded. Have a seat. Han Family Young Master gestured and then shouted towards the door. Little Ray. Little Ray answered. What do you want? Put away the table. I'm going to talk business. Han Family Young Master smiled. Little Ray quickly put away the empty glasses on the table. Luo only felt that it was amazing. Little Ray's bar really deserved its reputation. It actually had such a real service model. Was the waiter wiping the table in front of her really the legendary richest man in the parallel world? Little Ray? Another glass of water. Han Family Young Master said to Little Ray. Then he asked Luo. Do you want anything? A glass of water too. Luo answered. A pub with water. This was something that other pubs didn't have. Luo wanted to see what the water in this pub was like. The water was soon served. Han Family Young Master picked it up and drank it in one gulp. Luo took a sip and savored it carefully. Water is water. Nothing special. Han Family Young Master smiled. Luo was a little embarrassed and put down the glass. What's the task? Tell me. How many people are there in your mercenary group? Luo wanted to know the situation first. 6 people. Han Family Young Master answered. So few. Luo was very surprised. Elite group depends on quality rather than quantity. Han Family Young Master smiled. Are you the ones who completed the task of the bandit leader Suatu? Luo asked. It's us. Han Family Young Master's pronunciation of us was a little light. It seemed like he didn't have much confidence. Of course, Luo didn't notice this little bit of emotion. She nodded and said, Can you introduce me to you? Han Family Young Master didn't answer. He straightened his body and leaned back. Why don't you tell us what your task is first? If it's not something we're interested in, Then I don't think there's a need for me to introduce you. Oh, then what kind of task would you be interested in? Luoluo said. It sounds impossible. Han family young master said. Then I'm sure you'll be satisfied with my task. Luoluo said. Let's hear it. Help us deal with unhindered 4Cs. Luoluo said slowly. Actually, her expectations for this mercenary group weren't as high as when she first arrived. She didn't expect it to be a small mercenary group made up of 6 people. Even if the 6 of them were strong, the game was still in its infancy. No matter how strong a player was, there wouldn't be too much of a difference between them and the others. Unhindered 4Cs had killed all the girls from Reborn Amethyst. Just from the fact that they were able to do it, it was clear that they were very strong. Even the strongest player in the game couldn't compare to them. Who would have thought that Han family young master's eyebrows wouldn't even twitch after hearing the name of Unhindered 4Cs? Instead he asked, is it the strongest guild in Cloud City right now? Luoluo nodded. They won't be any more soon. Han family young master smiled. What do you mean? Because you bought my mercenary group to deal with them. Han family young master said. Luoluo's eyes widened. This guy in front of her. Now I only need to know one thing. Han family young master said. Luoluo was a little puzzled. She felt that there were still many things to discuss. Han family young master should at least tell her about their mercenary group's situation, right? At the very least, shouldn't they at least tell me about the fees they charge? However, Han family young master's only question was, how do you want me to deal with them? Luoluo was completely stunned. Her initial plan was to hire a mercenary group. If one wasn't enough, then she would hire a few more. Then, she would discuss it with the girls in the guild. She believed that July had the same plan. But this guy, judging from his tone, he didn't need any external help at all. With just the 6 of them, they could deal with the strongest guild in Cloud City right now. Seeing that Luoluo was speechless, Han family young master suddenly smiled. All right, I know what to do. You know? Luoluo was stunned again. Heartless falling flower. Hee. Your main goal is obviously not to laugh. Han family young master said with a smile. This Han family young master wasn't a normal player. Luoluo concluded that he was at least someone who often fought in the game. That was why he knew about the story of the non-smiler and July wildfire. However, I'm afraid it's not enough to deal with just one non-smiler. How about we clean up all the core members of Reigning the 4Cs? Han family young master asked. Then it's settled. Han family young master stood up and was ready to leave. Wait. Luoluo called out. Why? That's not enough? Han family young master asked. I want to ask, how are you going to charge? Luoluo said. Let's talk about it after it's done. I'm not afraid that you won't pay. Han family young master smiled. Luoluo had an idea. Let's talk about it after it's done. Doesn't that mean there's no need to talk if it's not done? Could it be that this guy's previous boasting was just empty words? That he would reply to me after 2 days, saying that the mission couldn't be completed? I'll contact you again. Han family young master said as he walked out of the room. But looking at him, it didn't seem like he was faking it. No matter what, their mercenary group should be very powerful. The fact that they were able to complete the mission was proof. Moreover, it seemed like they had nothing to do with Reigning the 4Cs. She had to think of a way to get their help. Luoluo stared at the glass of water in front of her. Just as she was thinking, a horrible scream came from outside. Who ordered this? Luoluo stood up and lifted the curtain. She saw Han family young master yelling at the bar with the bill in his hand. Little Ray was still smiling. He calmly answered Han family young master's question. The sorcerer that was with you. This guy. Han family young master slapped the table, as if that was Gufei. Luoluo quietly walked behind him. She took a glance at the bill and gasped. The most expensive drink in the game, for glasses and a bottle, cost about 200 gold coins. This was definitely a huge amount of money. Even if all the players in the tavern piled up their money bags, they might not be able to gather this amount. As expected of the strongest sorcerer, he's really something. Now can we talk about the fee? Luoluo suddenly smiled. The young master of the Han family turned around and looked at her. He sighed deeply and said, Let's talk inside. Can you introduce me to the sorcerer? Luoluo asked while walking. Don't mention him in front of me. Han family young master's eyes were filled with murderous intent. What's his name? Luoluo was persistent. Shameless is his name. Han clan's young master wouldn't say it even if he was beaten to death. Achoo! Gu Fei, who was still thinking about the past between July and Wildfire, suddenly sneezed. Strange, I've been sneezing a lot recently. Gu Fei rubbed his nose and mumbled to himself. Chapter 40. Luoluo had a satisfied smile on her face as she left Little Ray's bar. Although the Han family young master did not reveal who the members of the mercenary group were, at least she knew that they were a group of powerful level 30 characters. As for the legendary strongest sorcerer, the Han family young master only said one sentence. He challenged the bandit leader, Sutu, alone. In fact, Gu Fei was able to challenge Sutu alone because of a series of coincidences. However, outsiders did not know the intricacies of the story. Just by hearing this sentence, they felt that he was stronger than ever before. Because of this, Luoluo was full of confidence in this mercenary group, especially in this legendary sorcerer. However, for some reason, the Han family young master refused to reveal the names of the members. This was the only doubt that remained in Luoluo's heart. Regardless, she had already roped in this group. She was willing to help the Han family young master pay for the sake as the price. Although she did not say that this was the cost of hiring them, it was at least a favor. The Han family young master's narcissism was too obvious. This kind of person would definitely not be willing to owe others a favor. Therefore, Luoluo was not worried that he would go back on his words. However, the final content of the mission was not to whitewash some characters. That would not solve the root of the problem. Instead, it was to ask reigning 4 Seas to stop causing trouble for reborn Amethyst. It was such a vague goal, but the Han family young master dared to agree to it. Don't worry, I will make sure that Non-Smiler will not be able to laugh anymore, said the Han family young master to Luoluo. He did not reveal the specifics of what they were going to do. He only told Luoluo and the rest to sit back and watch the show. I hope they can really solve everything. That was what Luoluo thought. After sending off Luoluo, the Han family young master immediately started to recruit members. He also wanted to settle the score with Gu Fei. However, when he took a look at his friend list, he realized that Gu Fei was still not online. He was furious. They soon gathered at Little Ray's bar. Sword Demon was carried back by Unscathed in Battle. Why is this guy sleeping behind the tavern? Unscathed in Battle asked. No one knew, but Brother Yu, who knew, held back his laughter. The Sword Demon was obviously drunk. After this torment, he still didn't wake up and continued to sleep soundly in the corner. What's the mission? Tell me, Yu Tianshiming said. The Han family young master gave a brief introduction. The story of July's Wildfire and Non-Smiler was a well-known story in the online gaming world. Putting Gu Fei aside, veteran players like Brother Yu had heard of it, so it was easy for them to understand the whole story. It's not hard to kill Non-Smiler. The hard part is to make sure that he doesn't dare to cause trouble for reborn Amethyst. We'll have to plan this out. Brother Yu, go find out more about Unhindered and Non-Smiler, Han family young master said. Brother Yu nodded, then looked at Yu Tianshiming. Yu Tian, are you in Unhindered right now? How did you know? Yu Tianshiming was surprised. Everyone's eyes turned to him. Now that they had to deal with Unhindered, there was actually an Unhindered in their party. Don't look at me like that. I'm just joining a guild for fun. Yu Tianshiming quickly expressed his stance. Today at Yunjiao Lake. Brother Yu, I'm impressed. Yu Tianshiming was dumbfounded. As expected of an information specialist. How do you know everything? Brother Yu's smile was always so calm. What's going on? Han family young master asked. This afternoon at Yunjiao Lake, Unhindered organized to cause trouble for reborn Amethyst. I was there, and I even met Qianli. Qianli? He is with a woman, and that woman seems to be the one who was reborn into the Amethyst. Imperial God Ming said. And then, don't even mention it. I heard that reborn Amethyst was a female player, but there was no other girl in that afternoon. There were so many of them. I was sniping from afar, and I couldn't deal with it. Then someone circled behind me and kicked me down the hill. I even fainted. And when I woke up I saw Qianli. I saw that the girl knew Qianli, so I let her have the chest. Yutian Shiming explained. Who hit you? I don't know. I asked Qianli, but he said he didn't see it either. Yutian Shiming said. That's weird. She was already behind you. She could have just killed you. Why was she so kind as to spare your life? The crowd muttered. Lucky. Yutian Shiming sighed. He was quite grateful to the guy who kicked him down the hill instead of killing him. The penalty for dying in a parallel world was very heavy. Players would drop a level, and there was a chance that they would drop items from their body or their pockets. This setting was also for future players. After all, there was only one server in the game. Although the number of players was limited, as the server was upgraded, the game company would definitely think of ways to recruit more players. These new players obviously couldn't stand on the same starting line as the old players. This was a bit of a blow to the enthusiasm of the new players. Therefore, increasing the experience required to level up, and increasing the penalty for dying was to prevent the old players from lagging too far behind the new players in terms of level. I heard that the people of Purple Crystal Rebirth were completely annihilated in the afternoon. So it seems that they have succeeded? Heh, the organization didn't reprimand you? Brother, you laughed. Yutian Shiming's nose immediately became crooked. These guys don't know anything. If I didn't give face to Qianli, would I have let that girl take the chest? Fuck. They said I don't know how to play as an archer. Fuck, I'll leave the guild right now. Wait, don't rush. Han family young master stopped him. What is it? Yutian Shiming asked. You can stay in unhindered 4Cs for now. You might be useful in the future. Han family young master said. Spy. Yutian Shiming mumbled. Alright, that's it for now. Han family young master announced. This mission isn't like those rubbish missions from the system. Everyone pay attention and make preparations. Also, if you see Qianli online, inform him. What about him? Brother, you pointed at Sword Demon who was still snoring in the corner. Wuxiang, where did you find him? Han family young master asked. Behind the tavern. Unscathed in battle said. Fuck, why didn't any passersby kill him? This trash, he can't hold his liquor so well. He doesn't look like he came from me. Get up, Sword Demon, get up. Han family young master punched Sword Demon's head twice. You two chat. We'll leave first. The three couldn't bear to watch anymore and left. That day, Gufei didn't go online again. On the next day, he received an emergency call from Han family young master. Gufei guessed that he had been exposed. He jogged towards Little Ray's bar with his money bag. He was just joking with Han family young master. He didn't really want to take advantage of him. He rushed to the tavern and lifted the curtain to take a look. All five of them were there. Han family young master's eyes were filled with killing intent. Gufei felt a chill in his heart. What was the meaning of this? It was just a joke. Did they call all of them to criticize him? Touching his small money bag, Gufei said embarrassedly, They're all here. We were waiting for you. Han family young master roared. Can't you spend less time under the sun and do more meaningful things in front of the computer? Gufei was speechless. What kind of logic was this? Alright, let's not waste time. Sit down and listen to Brother Yu's introduction. Han family young master said. When Gufei heard that he didn't mention yesterday's incident, he praised him in his heart. He was a man after all. He didn't fuss over such a small matter. After sitting down, he touched Yutian Shiming beside him. What do you want to introduce? A new mission. Yutian Shiming said. Oh, Gufei replied. Brother Yu cleared his throat. Non-laughing this person. What? Gufei shouted. Non-laughing. Everyone looked at him. I know this person. Gufei hurriedly said. Everyone knows him. What are you shouting for? Han family young master said. Are you afraid that people don't know that we're planning to kill him? Gufei hurriedly lowered his voice. Are we going to kill him? Shut up first. I'll listen to Brother Yu. Han family young master didn't mention the money for the drinks, but it was obvious that he was still very emotional towards Gufei. Brother Yu cleared his throat again. Non-laughing is an old ID in the online gaming world. I won't talk about his past. I'm sure everyone has heard of it. In this parallel world, Non-Laughing is a rogue. He's currently level 30 and is ranked 11th on the Rogue Experience leaderboard. He's one of the 4 core members of Reigning the Four Seas. Apparently, he relies on strength, and his equipment is unknown. Recently, his most frequent leveling spot is the Cloud City west of Cloud City's Cloud Valley. He's usually in a party with other guild members. He's never been alone. Brother Yu paused and continued. Cloud Valley. Monsters are level 40. Sword Demon, you usually grind there, right? The monsters here have high attack and low defense. It's indeed more suitable for high attack and high evasion classes like rogues. Sword Demon nodded and added. Qianli also grinds there. Brother Yu was startled and couldn't help but say. For mages, if they want to grind higher level monsters, Cloud Valley is a better place. The monsters there move slowly and have low magic defense. Mages usually grind there. Oh, I'll go take a look next time, Gu Fei said. Everyone stared blankly at Gu Fei. Brother Yu also calmed down and said, That's all we know. If we want to know more, we'll need more time. That's enough, let's give him a show of strength, Han Family Young Master said, and took out a pile of rags from his pocket. He threw it on the table. One for each of us. What's this for? Gu Fei picked up a triangular piece. Cover your face, Han Family Young Master said. Why are you doing this? Gu Fei was startled. This time's mission is different from last time. We're not dealing with dumb computers, but players like us. Appraisal in the game can see your level, class and equipment, but it can't see your name. So as long as you cover your face, you can save yourself a lot of trouble. Han Family Young Master said. There's no need for that. The few of them were clearly conflicted. Han Family Young Master snorted coldly. I didn't even tell my employer your names. If any of you think it's unnecessary, then don't wear it. I won't force you, but I have to remind you that as long as one of you doesn't wear it, it'll bring trouble to everyone else. I'm going to wear it. Do as you see fit. After a moment of silence, Sword Demon picked up a piece and stuffed it into his pocket. Unscathed in battle, Brother Yu and Yutian Shunming also picked up a piece. Gu Fei hesitated again and again. In the end, he felt that he shouldn't drag others down, so he picked up a piece. Why are there 2 more pieces? Gu Fei picked up a piece and found that there were 2 more on the table. Han Family Young Master put away the last 2 and said indifferently, 2 pieces of cloth might not be able to cover my peerless face. Damn! Everyone shouted. Okay, put the chat window on the mercenary group channel. Everyone get ready and head towards Cloud Valley. The 6 members of Young Master's elite group set off once again. Chapter 41. After leaving the tavern, the 6 of them went their separate ways. Sword Demon and Unscathed in Battle said they were going to repair their equipment first. Yutian Shunming was going to replenish his arrows. Brother Yu went directly to Cloud Valley, and Han Family Young Master said, I don't think 2 pieces of cloth are enough. I'll go get another one. Gu Fei went to the auction hall. With dozens of gold coins in hand, Gu Fei was going to buy a suitable weapon. The original white broadsword was very suitable, but it was a pity that this broadsword was an extremely ordinary piece of equipment in the eyes of ordinary players. It was so ordinary that no one would think of selling it in the auction hall. Gu Fei searched around, but naturally he found nothing. Unlike ordinary players who chose weapons, the first thing Gu Fei paid attention to was the size, specification, weight, and so on of the weapon. These data affected Gu Fei's performance more than the attack of the weapon. Unfortunately, the search engine in the game did not have an advanced search function that could determine these data, so Gu Fei could only refer to the real thing in the exhibition hall one by one. This was undoubtedly a lot more work, so much so that in the chat window of the mercenary group, when the 5 guys said that they had arrived at Cloud Valley, Gu Fei had just found a suitable broadsword in the exhibition hall. Baptism of Fire. The attack was slightly higher than the white broadsword that Gu Fei had used before, and it also had a 30% chance of fire attack damage. This kind of weapon was probably considered useless in the eyes of ordinary players, because in the setting of the parallel world, the magic damage of equipment would be related to the attributes of the character. The more magic the character had, the higher the magic damage. And characters who often used a broadsword, such as warriors, were born with poor magic, so the magic damage they needed was only the effect brought by magic. For example, the speed reduction brought by freezing damage, the numbness brought by electric shock damage, and so on. There was no additional effect, but the high damage of fire magic was not too valuable. Therefore, such a piece of equipment with a high magic damage rate was priced at 60 gold coins. But no one was interested. For example, the sword demon's exquisite dagger, Frostbite Memories, had a 10% chance of freezing. Gufei didn't understand so much about the game. He just felt that this weapon's attack wasn't low, and it had a high chance of being enchanted. It was an effective supplement to his low damage, so he bought it without hesitation. Qianli, how are you? When the 5 of them arrived at the valley, there was no response from Gufei. Therefore, the Han family young master started to ask questions. I'll be there soon. Gufei received the flame baptism. The blade was dark red in color, and when he held it in his hand, he felt a slight burning sensation. It was worthy of being a piece of equipment with fire magic. The only regret was that there was no scabbard for this saber. So, Gufei stuffed it into his pocket and hurried on his way. Along the way, facing the criticism and urging of the Han family young master, Gufei finally set foot on the hot land of Cloud Valley. He had spent countless days and nights here. Gufei was inexplicably excited and asked the 5 of them in the chat window, "I'm here. Where are you guys?" With the boulder by the lake as the axis, the broken wooden house in the east is the 12 o'clock direction. I'm at 1 o'clock. Sword Demon is at 4 o'clock. Yutian is at 6 o'clock. Wuxiang is at 9 o'clock. And Brother Yu is at 10 o'clock. You find a place to hide and cover your face, said the Han family young master. Gufei took out the cloth and tied it to his face. Gufei was quite familiar with this area. It was a level 40 training area, and the players were only level 30. There were very few people who could fight monsters 10 levels higher than them, so there wasn't a single person in sight. Gufei dove into the forest at the side and hid himself. Don't be in a hurry to act. Wait for the other party to appear and identify their roles. Then, we'll have a clear strategy and defeat them in one move, said the Han family young master. Everyone agreed. What followed was a long wait. The valley was silent. Gufei fiddled with his newly bought baptism of fire. He resisted the urge to rush up to the monsters and use them on them. They waited for half an hour, and a few of them couldn't sit still anymore. They questioned in the chat window, Brother Yu, is your intel correct? Is he leveling up here? It's correct. Brother Yu was always confident in his information. Because of his unwavering tone, everyone waited for another 10 minutes, but there was still no one. This time, even he himself couldn't hold back anymore. Why don't we level here for a while? Gufei was eager to try out his new weapon. Coming, someone's coming. The sword demon sent out a message. Everyone's gaze was focused on the entrance of the valley. A group of people and horses marched in majestically. Oh, there's quite a lot of people, Yutian Shenming exclaimed. 10. Brother Yu had already started gathering information. Looking at their equipment, 2 warriors, 1 mage, 1 archer, 3 thieves and 3 priests. Is there anyone whose position I can use appraisal art on? Asked the young master from the Han family. The 4 shook their heads. Gufei's answer was unique. I don't know, identify. Everyone. The 10 of them had already entered the valley and arrived at the monster farming location. They got into position and were about to start training. Is there still no one who can get close to appraise? The Han family young master asked. I'll try, the sword demon said. I was waiting for you to say that, the Han family young master said. The sword demon activated stealth and approached the other party from the middle of the mountain. At the moment, there were no anti-stealth skills that specifically targeted stealth, so the thieves were good at peeping. However, stealth was a skill that would be exposed at the slightest movement. Using identify while stealth would also reveal one's true form. Therefore, the sword demon could only rely on stealth to move closer to the 10 of them. Then, he would find a place to hide and slowly appraise them. The place he chose was the boulder by the lake that the Han family young master used as the axis. When he arrived behind the boulder, the sword demon revealed his true form. Everyone's hearts were in their throats. They were only 2 meters away from the group of people training. If they took 2 steps forward, they would immediately discover the sword demon hiding behind the boulder. Stealth couldn't be used when they were under attack, or under any abnormal conditions. For experienced players, it was easy to prevent a thief from using stealth. More importantly, to use identify, one's eyes had to pay attention to the target. At this time, the sword demon was hiding behind the boulder, and his own vision was blocked. If he wanted to use identify, he would have to reveal his head, but he couldn't see the situation outside. How would the sword demon know if he would make eye contact with someone after revealing his head? At this time, Gu Fei finally appreciated the legendary ghost duo Golden Duo in the online gaming world. The far-sighted Han family young master became the sword demon's eyes. He paid attention to the line of sight of the 10 players and gave orders to the sword demon. The sword demon seemed to be under the control of the Han family young master. He accurately grasped 10 gaps and revealed his head perfectly, completing identify 10 times, and presented the results to the chat window. Unhindered was indeed the number 1 guild. Among the 10 leveling party, 8 of them were level 30. Of course, although they were all level 30, there was still a large gap between their experience and that of the top players like the sword demon. Unfortunately, experience didn't help in battle. This was how the parallel world used the setting to close the gap between players. Their levels aren't low, but their equipment is average. Brother Yu looked at the way the 10 players fought, and the results of the identify. He began to analyze them one by one. The 2 warriors are hard to kill instantly. It looks like they're both tanky. The mage's weapon isn't bad, and his magic attack is very high, but his defense isn't good. The archer is just following the party to gain experience, so he can be ignored. The 3 priests have average skills, but if they focus on healing the 2 warriors, it'll be troublesome. As for the 3 thieves, those 2 are average. The third one is no smiler. The sword demon's identify failed. It looks like his identify level is higher than the sword demon's. Yeah, sword demon, you hide there first. Han family young master said. The sword demon made an okay gesture in the direction of the Han family young master, then activated stealth and disappeared. Let's take care of the 3 priests first. Brother Yu, what do you think? Han family young master said, and the battle meeting began in the chat window. Yeah, or else those 2 warriors will be too big of a threat. Brother Yu said. However, 2 of the 3 priests are tanky, so it'll be a bit troublesome. Wuxiang's whirlwind slash can kill one, but sword demon's backstab and Yutian's snipe probably won't be enough. If they're a bit smarter and use their healing skills to stall for time, we'll be in even more trouble. It looks like it'll be impossible to take care of all 10 at once. Han family young master said. I don't think so. Brother Yu sighed. What about you guys? What do you think? Han family young master asked. Since we can't take them all at once, let's take them down one by one. Gu Fei said. Oh, everyone waited for Gu Fei to continue. There's a big flaw in their team composition. Gu Fei said. Really? Everyone began to pay attention to the team composition of the 10. The mage has low defense and HP, and the archer is on the weaker side. Gu Fei continued. If we take out the mage, their team basically has no long-range attack ability. Han family young master had already seen through Gu Fei's thoughts. That's right. With Yutian's attack power, he might be able to take out the mage with one snipe. Gu Fei couldn't forget about Yutian Shinming's snipe yesterday. Brother Yu calculated the mage's stats again, and expressed his affirmation. It'll be an instant kill. Unless Yutian, you can't hit him. You're kidding. Yutian Shinming was disdainful. Suddenly being sniped by an archer. I think their reaction will be to scatter and find cover. Gu Fei said. Taking this opportunity, Sword Demon can sneak over and launch a surprise attack. He can take care of a priest. Not necessarily, Sword Demon said. Maybe I can take care of 2. But then Sword Demon will be exposed. Yutian Shinming said. Then run. Can any of them catch up to you? Gu Fei said. There's also an archer. Yutian Shiming said. The archer's arrows will undoubtedly run faster than Sword Demon's people. At this time, you can probably launch a second snipe, right? Gu Fei said. So, Gu Fei concluded. As long as we use Sword Demon's stealth and Yutian's snipe, it will be enough to take care of their team. Good idea, Han family young master said. However, our goal is to wipe them out. So, after Sword Demon and Yutian deal enough damage to them, everyone will attack in one go. No problem, everyone said. Yutian, get ready. Han family young master issued an attack order. Chapter 42. Yutian Shiming got into position and knocked an arrow. The sniper shot an arrow, whistling across the valley, and hit the enemy mage in the head. That's too cruel. Why did he shoot the head? He must have played too much Counter-Strike. As the enemy mage turned into a white light, the mercenary group was in a heated discussion. This sudden attack startled the remaining 9 people on the other side. Because the arrow came so suddenly, no one knew where it was coming from. Once a character died in the game, the corpse would return to the resurrection point with an arrow in its head, so it was impossible to deduce where it fell from. But what surprised them was that the remaining 9 fellows did not flee in panic like Gu Fei had guessed. Instead, they very calmly formed a circle with their backs facing each other. They faced all 4 directions evenly, their gazes scanning the mountains closely. They're well trained. Hiding in the forest, Gu Fei saw that his plan couldn't be carried out after only one step, and couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. Rich experience. No wonder Unsmiler is a veteran player. It seems that these people have trained together. They didn't form a random team. The Han family's young master said calmly. What do we do now? Gu Fei asked. Let them play back to back for a while. Yutian hide well. Han family young master said. Of course. I'll let them know what an archer is today. Yutian Shiming obviously had a deep grudge against reigning the world's disdain yesterday. But Gu Fei's impression of him changed slightly. Yesterday, Yutian Shiming didn't say anything about the treasure chest. And a large part of it was because Gu Fei and Little Yu knew each other. Knowing that Yutian Shiming was being looked down upon, Gu Fei's first thought was that this damned kid would definitely vent his anger on him. But now, it seemed like this kid didn't have that kind of mentality. It seemed like this damned kid was also a generous person. Just like that, the 6 of them quietly watched the 9 people form a circle. Bored to death, the Han family young master asked a question. Comrades, if we were to encounter such a situation one day, how would we handle it? Hide in the forest. The answer was almost unanimous. Not bad. So Comrade Qianli, be careful. As soon as the Han family young master finished speaking, the 9 people in the circle did not move after waiting for a long time. As expected, they started to move towards the forest in a circle formation. Yutian, is the cooldown for your sniper rifle ready? Asked the Han family young master. It's been done for a long time, Yutian replied. Alright, everyone get into position. Attack. The Han family's young master suddenly gave the order. Another whistling arrow tore through the air, and without missing its target, it instantly killed the lowest leveled archer of the reigning the 4 seas. However, this arrow also exposed Yutian Shiming's position. Over there! A warrior beside the fallen archer shouted. The remaining 8 people gave up on the idea of entering the forest, and strode towards the direction of Yutian Shiming's ambush on the hillside. At this time, the sword demon drilled out from behind a rock. However, in stealth mode, his movement speed was greatly reduced, and he was completely unable to catch up to any of the opponents who were running at full speed. Seeing the opponents flash past in front of him one by one, the sword demon did not even have a chance to get close to them. When all 8 of them had their backs facing him, the sword demon simply dispelled stealth mode and used the thief's level 30 skill Swift. His movement speed was not slow to begin with, but in an instant, his speed increased by 15%. In a jog, he rushed behind the last of the 8, the cleric. Amidst the sounds of footsteps, the cleric finally heard something strange behind him. However, before he could turn around, the sword demon had already stabbed his waist with backstab. Ah! The cleric let out a scream. Just as Brother Yu had said, The sword demon's backstab was not enough to cause an instant kill to this level 30 cleric. This cleric was also very experienced. After being attacked, he immediately cast a healing spell on himself. The second attack from the sword demon pulled out his dagger and arrived at the same time as the cleric's healing spell. After one attack, the cleric still did not fall. The sword demon's heart was cold. If these two attacks did not kill him, then there would be no chance. The other party had already discovered him, and when the two clerics cast their healing spells, would he still have a chance? Just as he was thinking about this, he suddenly heard two whooshing sounds. The cleric had fallen with another, ah! In the flashing white light, the sword demon saw two arrows stuck in his back. Looking into the distance, Yutian Shenming stood tall on the hillside, his right arm raised high, and made a V gesture at him. Archer's level 24 skill, double strike. The sword demon smiled, raised his arm, and gave a thumbs up to Yutian Shenming. Then he quickly retreated. You two go take care of that archer, someone on the other side ordered. The two thieves nodded and simultaneously activated the thief's level 30 skill quickness. They quickly ran towards Yutian Shenming. Wow, so fast. Yutian Shenming did not bother to shoot, and broke into a run. If the two thieves rushed in front of him, then he really had no way to survive. Wushang brother, you support Yutian. The Han family young master also ordered. Got it, Yutian, the wooden house at 9 o'clock. Brother, you said. The remaining 3 warriors, 2 clerics and 1 thief on the other side, at this time, aggressively rushed towards the sword demon. The thief also used the level 30 skill, quickness, and quickly rushed towards the sword demon. At the same time, he shouted to the 2 priests behind him, "Don't let him go into stealth." The 2 priests immediately used the pitiful priest skill, which was also the only attack skill they knew, Holy Light Ball. 2 pure white balls of light were summoned as the 2 chanted, but the experienced sword demon had already activated stealth after giving Yutian Shenming a thumbs up and retreated. At this time, he had already disappeared. The 2 pure balls of light could only be helplessly thrown into the air. Damn! The thief who tried to come up and fight the sword demon was flustered and exasperated. Be careful, he reminded the 4 people behind him, while also retreating to the team. At the same time, he shouted into the air, "Who the hell are you people?" Ah! The answer to him was 2 screams. The thief quickly turned his head to look. In the distance, the 2 thieves chasing Yutian Shenming were about to catch up to Yutian Shenming. They didn't think that a warrior would come out from behind the wooden house. His body had already been blessed by the night. With a loud roar, he used the most visually destructive skill in the game, Whirlwind Slash. The 2 bandits didn't expect that there would be someone intercepting them on their way. At this moment, they couldn't dodge in time, and were firmly spun by Zhang Wushang's Whirlwind Slash. Imperial Divine Cry also shot a few arrows from behind to add fuel to the fire. In just a few moments, the 2 bandits were already dead. Another person came out from behind the broken house. In his hand was a knight's common weapon, a scepter, and he patted and scathed in battle. The 3 walked side by side, quickly rushing over to this side of the battlefield. In the blink of an eye, half of the 10 leveling party had already been killed. Anyone's heart would palpitate. Who the hell are you people? The thief roared. He didn't want to answer, but he screamed again. Among the 5 people who were gradually shrinking to form a circle again, one of the priests was once again backstabbed by Sword Demon. The other party had been carefully guarding against the attack. As soon as he was attacked, he had already started chanting a healing spell. Unexpectedly, this time there was no chance at all. After being backstabbed by Sword Demon, the priest fell directly. Critical. As a fellow thief, he knew the maximum power of a thief's backstab at this current level. He also knew how much his partner's HP and defense were. To be able to instantly kill him with a backstab, it must have triggered the critical rate, and the critical rate was not low. Of course, this was also one of the reasons why Sword Demon chose the priest who added all points in wisdom among the 3 of them this time. It was too late for Sword Demon to pull out and retreat. The other party was originally in the encirclement, so they took advantage of the situation and surrounded him. Kill him. The thief gave the order, and rushed forward with a dagger in his hand. At the same time, his eyes fell on the dagger in Sword Demon's hand. This was obviously a sharp weapon with a critical attack. It was an absolute superb item. It would be great if it dropped. Trapped in a tight encirclement, Sword Demon did not dodge or evade. Instead, he stubbornly stabbed the last enemy warrior. In the distance, Yutian Shiming had also launched a rescue. A sniper shot whistled again, aiming directly at the target of Sword Demon's attack. Unscathed in battle, and Brother Yu chased after the arrow and rushed over in big strides. No matter what, this guy is dead for sure. With this thought in mind, the other party's attack had already greeted Sword Demon. When they confidently thought that Sword Demon was about to fall, a white light fell on Sword Demon almost at the same time as their attack. On the other hand, Sword Demon was completely focused. He gritted his teeth and stabbed the warrior in front of him. The opponent's priest thought that Sword Demon would definitely die under the attack of the four people. He didn't think about healing his warrior at all. He was summoning the holy light orb to experience the fun of killing the enemy. The warrior fell to the ground under 2 consecutive attacks from Sword Demon and a sniper shot from Yutian Shinming. Sword Demon rushed out of the encirclement, and a white light fell on him in an instant. Sword Demon turned around and held the dagger in his hand across his chest. He looked really incomparably fierce. The other party was completely stunned. It seemed like it was just 2 healing spells, but the timing was so precise that it was hopeless. Thieves were not a profession with high HP. Under the joint attack of 2 warriors and 1 thief, just 1 hit from each was enough to make Sword Demon's HP drop to the bottom. But the wonderful thing was that the opponent's priest used a healing spell. If Sword Demon was allowed to take these 3 attacks, then Sword Demon would be dead before he could recover. Therefore, the priest released the healing spell in the small gap between the 3 attacks, and used this gap to recover Sword Demon's HP. It was equivalent to increasing the upper limit of Sword Demon's HP, allowing him to take 3 attacks. This healing spell had no effect whether it was early or late. It was only at this moment that it could save Sword Demon's life. This was definitely not something an ordinary player could achieve. The 3 of them looked back and saw a priest standing not far away. He was using the 3rd healing spell to completely restore Sword Demon's HP. "Who are you?" The other party threw out this question for the 3rd time. "Stupid. Can't you see that we all have our faces covered? How can we tell you who we are?" Han Family Young Master said coldly. He took a step forward and blocked the other party's way. Unscathed in battle, and Brother Yu had already rushed to the front while talking. Yutian Shenming was in the distance with his bow and arrow ready. No one said a word. They all attacked at the same time, as if they had a tacit understanding. The remaining warrior and priest quickly fell to the ground, while the thief disappeared under Sword Ghoul's brutal attack. Disappear? Sword Demon was shocked. The effect of disappear was exactly the same as stealth. The only difference was that it could be forcefully activated in any situation. This was definitely not a skill that a thief at the current level should have. It's a skill scroll. Brother Yu frowned. The skill activated by the skill scroll was based on the attributes of the scroll. It was not affected by the character's current level or skill proficiency. It could be a skill that you have not learned yet. And it was all instant cast. Fuck. Han Family Young Master was flustered and exasperated. It was obvious that this guy was the biggest target this time, Unsmiler. However, no matter how much they thought about it, they did not expect this person to have such a high-level skill scroll. They actually let the final boss escape at the last moment. This was definitely a very depressing thing in the game. They looked in the direction of the valley exit. Unsmiler would probably be able to swagger in that direction now. Suddenly, Gu Fei's figure appeared from the forest. Han Family Young Master was naturally furious. This guy actually appeared at this time. He was about to scold when he saw Gu Fei raise his arm, the dark red long sword in his hand horizontally beside him. "Where do you want to go?" Gu Fei smiled. Chapter 43. Everyone was dumbfounded, thinking that Gu Fei had lost his mind. Otherwise, why would he talk to the air? In the end, Gu Fei took 2 steps to the right, still holding the baptism of fire horizontally by his side. "I'm talking to you." still running. Just as the young master of the Han clan was about to start cursing, he saw a figure gradually appear in front of Gu Fei's horizontal blade. The figure was staring at Gu Fei dumbfounded. It was the rogue who wanted to escape, the protagonist of this operation, Non-Smiler. The valley was silent. Everyone looked at Gu Fei dumbfoundedly. Only the sword demon's expression was more natural. This wasn't the first time he had seen this. Go back, Gu Fei said lightly. Non-Smiler suddenly laughed. He had already used Identify on Gu Fei. Although he did not know how this guy discovered him when he was in stealth mode, there was no doubt that Gu Fei was a magician with trash equipment. His level was quite high, but he was holding a sword in his hand. What fire baptism? What? Are you trying to trick me? Non-Smiler already suspected that Gu Fei was a blind cat running into a dead mouse, and that he had been fooled by this guy. Taking advantage of the fact that the other 5 were still far away, Non-Smiler attacked Gu Fei without hesitation. At such a distance, wouldn't dealing with a mage be a matter of 2 or 3 strikes? Even with a priest by his side, it would be difficult to save him. Everyone would think so, and Non-Smiler was no exception. The Han family young master and the others were the same. At this moment, they were hurriedly pouncing over to help. No one expected that Gu Fei would casually take a step back, and Non-Smiler's strike missed. Then his arm bent, and the baptism of fire sliced toward Non-Smiler. The speed of the attack was far beyond Non-Smiler's expectations. In a panic, he hurriedly swung his dagger to block. This was the result of the current players training in MMORPG for a period of time. When attacked, they wouldn't rely on their HP to tank. Players with keen senses had already discovered that in order to maximize the damage of their attacks, they needed to grasp the timing and position of their attacks. And if they wanted the enemy's attacks to miss, they needed to dodge or block. If he straightened his chest and took the hit head-on, he would be hit 100% of the time. There wouldn't be a situation where his dodge rate was high while his opponent's hit rate was low. This little discovery was of course nothing to Gu Fei. He had been playing the game with this attitude from the beginning. At the moment, his situation was the opposite of the players. Currently, most players had the ability to evade attacks, but because they lacked the awareness to do so, or in other words, they lacked insight into their opponent's attacks, which resulted in their ability not being fully utilized. On the other hand, Gu Fei didn't lack awareness, nor did he lack the ability to see through his opponent's attacks. He just kept complaining that his body wasn't fast enough, and that his strength wasn't great enough. Due to the players' own problems, they were unable to display the abilities set in the game. However, Gu Fei felt that the limitations of the data in the game prevented him from displaying his abilities to the fullest. From time to time, there would be attacks that Gu Fei could see clearly, but in the end, his body wouldn't be able to keep up with the rhythm, causing him to fail to dodge. This kind of situation happened occasionally, which made him very depressed. But in front of the players, Gu Fei's advantage was too obvious. Non-Smiler thought that he had succeeded by raising his dagger to block. How could he know that this slash from Gu Fei contained several variations of kung fu moves? Someone raised his blade to block. Such a common response was, of course, within the range of variations of this slash. Gu Fei's wrist bent casually, and this slash had already changed direction, changing from a slash to a slash, slashing diagonally at the Non-Smiler's waist. The dark red blade suddenly flashed, and a streak of fire streaked across the entire blade, as if it was burning, finally converging on the part of the Non-Smiler that had been slashed. There was a 30% chance of triggering, and a fire attack was launched. Although Gu Fei hadn't added wisdom, mages were born with a high rate of growth in wisdom. This was an advantage that came at the expense of strength growth and constitution growth. As their levels increased, the mage's natural growth of mana was much more plentiful than that of most professions. The fire damage caused by this slash wasn't on the same level as the fire damage caused by the hands of ordinary warriors. Non-Smiler took this slash, relying on his defense to hold on wasn't particularly uncomfortable, but the fire damage that followed made him suffer quite a bit. Thieves were also a profession with low HP, and this time, their HP immediately dropped by half. Pale with fright, Gu Fei's second slash had already arrived. Non-Smiler raised his dagger to block, but how could he catch Gu Fei's skillful attack? The baptism of fire once again bypassed the dagger that was held horizontally in the air and landed on his shoulder. Non-Smiler's heart went cold, and he could only close his eyes and wait for death. Who knew that this time, the fire magic wouldn't activate? Just as he was secretly rejoicing, Gu Fei's third slash had already arrived. This kind of continuous attack was simply the style of a thief. Non-Smiler was completely speechless. For a moment, he wondered if there was a problem with his identify, or if the opponent had some higher-level identify skill. Illusionary flowers, moon water enchantment? I've never heard of this kind of skill. Non-Smiler the third slash didn't resist at all. He just raised his arm and tried to pull off the black cloth covering Gu Fei's face. Of course, Gu Fei didn't let him have his way. He dodged while continuing to slash at Non-Smiler's body. Fire damage was activated once again. Flames flashed. And just as Non-Smiler was about to be engulfed, a white light suddenly descended on his head. Restore! Non-Smiler's HP was saved by this restore. He turned his head in surprise and looked at the only priest present, Han family young master. Gu Fei also stopped attacking. Seeing that he was about to finish off a character, he suddenly lent a helping hand. Naturally, he had something to say. Brother, you, unscathed in battle, and the others were originally going to rush up to help. But when they saw Gu Fei start to slash, Non-Smiler stood still. For a mage to slash a thief, they couldn't quite accept it for the first time. In particular, they were legendary in-game experts. The deep-rooted traditional concepts of online games made them feel that they must be seeing things. While they were in a daze, Gu Fei finished his 3 slashes, and Han family young master used his restore before they came back to their senses. They hurriedly rushed forward, surrounding the Non-Smiler in the middle. Non-Smiler was everyone's ultimate goal, but everyone's eyes were on Gu Fei. Only Han family young master stood firm. He looked at Non-Smiler and asked indifferently, "Non-Smiler?" Unsmilingly nodded and glanced at the guys around him. All of their faces were covered with black cloth, and the one talking to him seemed to have more than one piece of cloth on his face. The one speaking in this situation should be the leader of this group. Could it be that having more cloth on one's face was a sign of a leader? Non-Smiler, from being surrounded to being seen through, to being attacked by a mage with a sword, to seeing the Han family young master with 3 pieces of cloth on his face. Question marks came one after another in his mind. Do you know who we are? Han family young master said. Non-Smiler shook his head. That's good. Han family young master let out a long sigh. Don't talk nonsense. Sword Demon rolled his eyes. Han family young master nodded and pointed at Non-Smiler. Have you heard of Amethyst Reborn? Non-Smiler was surprised. Even the bystanders could relate to the grudge between him and July, let alone him. I don't know what you think about Purple Crystal Resurrection, but I have 2 sisters in that guild. So if you go looking for trouble with Purple Crystal Resurrection, we'll come looking for you, understand? Han Zhuoling's reply was, I don't know what you think about Purple Crystal Resurrection, but I have 2 sisters in that guild. So, if you go looking for trouble with Purple Crystal Resurrection, we'll come looking for you, understand? Non-Smiler didn't say anything. Han family young master didn't force him to answer. He only continued to say indifferently, Today's matter is a warning to you. Alright, your brothers are all dead. We came here for you today, so there's no reason not to kill you. After saying that, he winked at the side. The sword ghost took a step forward and brandished his dagger. Under the astonished gaze of the Non-Smiler, the sword ghost finished him off. Let's call it a day. Han family young master said. Everyone nodded and suddenly rushed forward, grabbing Gu Fei. Brother, you reached out and tore off the black cloth on his face. What are you doing? Gu Fei didn't expect this and couldn't defend himself. That's why they say friends are scarier than enemies. It's really Qianli. Yutian Shiming shouted. Nonsense. Gu Fei was depressed. Han family young master tore off the 3 pieces of cloth on his face and walked forward. He pulled Gu Fei's head and looked at it from left to right. Gu Fei resisted, but the one behind him was unscathed in battle. He He simply lifted a finger, and Gu Fei's resistance was suppressed. Han family young master studied Gu Fei's face and asked Brother Yu, "There aren't any disguise skills in the game, right?" "I don't think so." Brother Yu, who was always confident in his intelligence, was a bit hesitant. He also walked forward and studied Gu Fei's face. "Hey, that's enough," Gu Fei said. "It really is Qianli." Brother Yu said. "I think so too," Han family young master said. And scathed in battle released Gu Fei from behind. Gu Fei put the knife back into his pocket. The others still looked at him like he was a monster. "Qianli, you added points to agility, right?" Brother Yu asked. This was the first time the mercenary group members, besides Sword Demon, appreciated Gu Fei's skills. Gu Fei nodded. "Quan Min." Everyone looked at each other. "This training method of yours, how did you figure it out?" Brother Yu asked carefully. He began to suspect that Gu Fei was an internal member of the gaming company, and that he had access to a lot of undisclosed data. Otherwise, who would add points to a mage's full agility at the start of a game? What's there to think about? Gu Fei spoke of his grievance of choosing the wrong mage. Of course, his words couldn't help but express his endless frustration towards becoming a mage. Other than that, he also expressed his endless yearning to become a grandmaster of combat, or even a warrior. This of course attracted the dissatisfaction of Yutian Xunming, who was no longer a mage but still loved mages. Damn! What's wrong with being a mage? Training like this is a waste of a mage. Sigh. Gu Fei sighed. Kids don't understand adult matters. Yutian Xunming was so angry that his nose was crooked. The others were also a bit curious. Why is Qianli so into a grandmaster of combat? Because I am a grandmaster of combat who studies Kung Fu, Gu Fei said. Chapter 44. Kung Fu. Grandmaster of Combat? Research. The others repeated Gu Fei's words as they looked at each other and smiled. Gu Fei had seen this kind of expression too many times. Every time he talked about his Kung Fu, they would always have this kind of disapproving expression. But this was the game, and Gu Fei had the ability to prove it. He waved the fire baptism in his hand and said to the others, "Look at this move of mine. There are 4 variations and 4 follow-up moves if..." Okay. Don't change your move, change your equipment first. The enemy's follow-up move is about to come. Han family young master said. Change my equipment? Gu Fei didn't understand. Everyone change your equipment. Han family young master turned around and said to the other 4. The 4 nodded, and in the blink of an eye, they were all dressed in plain clothes. Brother Yu turned around and explained to Gu Fei. Even though our faces are covered, the enemy can still recognize our equipment if they use Identify, especially since Unsmiler's Identify is quite high level. Like the Sword Demon's Frostbite's memory, it's definitely a good item that will never be forgotten. That's why. Let's change our equipment to make sure they don't recognize us. Gu Fei nodded. But this is all I have. You don't need to change. Han family young master said. Take off your broken straw hat. Take off your broken shoes. Put away your broken sword and dress like a mage. Gu Fei listened to his orders. Han family young master continued. The quest isn't over yet. It's only just begun. Unsmiler has been around for so many years. He won't be scared off so easily. I think he still has the guts to take revenge on us. Brother Yu agreed. Not to mention he has Reigning 4 as his backer. I think they've already called for help when they were attacked. Yutian Xunming nodded. They did call for help in the guild channel. But we moved fast enough. They shouldn't have gone far. The Han family young master looked at the time and said, Let's split up and go to the Cloud Fruit Farm in the west of the city. We'll mingle with the ordinary players and kill monsters to level up. If you see anyone from Reigning 4 Seas, remember to gather information about them. Don't close the chat window and listen to the news at any time. Everyone nodded and prepared to go their separate ways after leaving the valley. Hey, are you guys interested in learning Kung Fu from me? Gu Fei shouted. There will be a chance. The Han family young master patted him and turned around. Let's go. The 6 of them chose their own path. In short, they temporarily avoided the main road leading to Cloud City from Cloud Valley. Not long after leaving the Cloud Red Mountain Valley, was the Cloud Material Farm. The monsters here ranged from level 25 to level 30, and it was currently one of the areas with the most players. The supply of small monsters could not meet the demand, and the players stopping here and there had become a part of the scenery here. Under these circumstances, no one actually tried to kill steal. This was all because there was an unwritten rule in the Cloud Material Farm. Kill stealers will be attacked by everyone. This wasn't because the players were of high quality, but because everyone felt that there were too many monks and not enough gruel. If someone gave everyone such a cool excuse to kick them out, they would be more than happy to do so. As this situation continued, there were no more kill stealers in the Cloud Material Farm. Instead, there were more and more people who were falsely accused of kill stealing. Those who were falsely accused often had one thing in common: they were too strong. Those who were too strong killed monsters quickly, and this made most of the ordinary players feel uneasy. As a result, once someone went against their conscience and shouted he stole the kill, even more people would immediately pretend to have made a mistake. No matter how strong a player was, they would not be able to withstand the sudden mistake of more than 20 people around them. They would not even have the chance to defend themselves before they disappeared from the field of hope. The Cloud Crop Farm was a very dark place. Brother Yu explained the situation of the farm to everyone in the mercenary channel, reminding them not to show off too much, and to just go up and find a random monster to pretend to be good. Everyone nodded in agreement. When they arrived at the Cloud Material Farm, Gufei looked around and saw a few people mixed in the crowd. They all subconsciously leaned towards the road in the middle of the farm. This was the road that led straight to Cloud Mist Valley, and if anyone came here, they would definitely pass through here. Gufei looked around. They were all following Brother Yu's instructions, holding the most broken weapons, and looking for a target to slowly attack. Gufei immediately took out his magic staff, but he didn't use any spells. He just used it like a fire stick to hit a grass doll that spawned in front of him. Not long after, dust began to fly in the distance. Several players were running in this direction at a uniform speed. After all, different bonuses and equipment affected the movement speed of each class. If everyone ran at their maximum speed, the team would be in a straight line, and they would be attacked one by one. Reigning the Four Seas had obviously considered this problem, and so they chose to run at a uniform speed. The crowd ran through the road in the field, matched with various classes. The players leveling up in the farm couldn't help but stop to watch. They leveled up here every day, but they had never seen such a big commotion before. What was going on? The players were all discussing. An experienced player pointed at the emblem worn by the players in the middle of the road and explained to the others, "Reigning the Four Seas." So the players all understood that Reigning the Four Seas was doing a training event to improve the quality of their troops. "It's quite a scene," Han Family Young Master said in the mercenary channel. "Yutian, how many people does Reigning have right now?" "We just got promoted to level 3, and we've already recruited 300 people. Yutian Shiming replied. "How many are level 30? Big bro, there are no numbers in front of us. Don't expect me to count them one by one." Yutian Shiming said. "This unfunny, if he knew what's good for him, he would have stopped them. What a pity. Looks like he thinks he has a strong backing. TSK, let's play with him a bit more," Han Family Young Master said. Reigning the Four Seas soon passed through the farm and headed straight for Cloud Valley. After that, there were only one or two scattered across the field. Yutian Shenming tried to take care of the stragglers, but was stopped by Han Family Young Master. "They're looking for us. Aren't you just telling them that we're at Cloud Valley Farm? Then what do we do now?" Yutian Shenming asked. "We don't have the ability to catch them all in one fell swoop. We can only catch the leader first. Did you see any non-smilers among the people who went over?" Han Family's Young Master asked. "No." Brother Yu replied confidently. "This is his business. He has no reason not to come. I'm afraid it's because we just sent him back to the city, and he's still on the way. Qianli, follow the road back to the city. If you see him, send us a message," Han Family Young Master said. "Okay." Gufei got up and prepared to go. "Hurry up and go to the Thieves' Guild after returning to the city. That's where Unfunny will revive. Find a chance to get rid of him. I don't think you'll have a problem fighting him one-on-one, right? Han Family Young Master said. Of course not. Gu Fei rested his staff on his shoulder and whistled as he went on his way. Full agility mages weren't slow either. Gu Fei ran for a while. When he could see the outline of Cloud City, he saw a figure running towards him. When he looked closer, it was indeed Unfunny. I see Unfunny. Gu Fei yelled in the mercenary channel. Got it. Don't worry about him. Hurry up and go. When you get to the Thieves Guild, send us a message. Brother you go too. We'll estimate when Unfunny will arrive and choose a place to strike. Han Family Young Master commanded. No problem. Gu Fei and Brother Yu sent the message at the same time. At the same time, Gu Fei and Unfunny brushed past each other. Unfunny didn't notice Gu Fei at all. He was anxiously hurrying forward. Returning to Cloud City, Gu Fei quickly arrived at the Thieves Guild. He looked around and sent a message. I'm here. Before that, Brother Yu had already met up with Unfunny. Knowing that Gu Fei had already arrived at the designated location, the strategy was quickly arranged. Unfunny is here. In the chat channel, Yutian Shenming yelled. Hey, live text broadcast. Gu Fei didn't want to miss this exciting scene, since he couldn't watch it live. Let me do it. Yutian Shenming volunteered. Unfunny is walking over. He's walking over. He's walking alone. He's holding a dagger in his hand, representing the glorious tradition of thieves. Walking on the field road, he doesn't look around. He's walking straight ahead. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Sorry, I should count backwards. It's more exciting that way. Sorry. I don't know how many steps to start counting backwards or forward. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. He's getting closer. 1 step after another. 6 steps, 7 steps. He's here. He's attacking. The sword demon hiding in the middle of the road is attacking. The moment Unfunny passed by him, he nimbly turned around and stabbed the dagger deep into. Sorry, I didn't see if it was his waist or his butt. Unfunny turned his head, but there wasn't a smile on his face. Unfortunately, all he saw was a face covered by a black cloth. Unfunny tried to pull off the cloth, but he didn't have the chance. The sword demon stabbed him again. Sword demon, I think you should let him pull off the cloth on your face. That way you'll scare him to death. Maybe he'll drop some equipment. Scram! The sword demon, who had dealt with Unfunny, sent a word. Qianli, how's it going on your side? Han Family Young Master asked. Yeah, I've already seen him, Gu Fei said. He watched as Unfunny rushed out of the Thieves Guild with a flustered and exasperated face. He spun around twice on the spot. He was probably so angry that he couldn't tell where he was going. Then he drooped his head at a 45-degree angle and stared blankly at the ground. I'm making my move. Unfortunately, I don't have time to broadcast it. Gu Fei took out a black cloth and covered his face. He put on the straw hat and carried the flame baptism behind him. He quickly chased after Unfunny. Chapter 45. No one knew what he was thinking, but he was so engrossed in it that he didn't even notice Gu Fei was behind him. It was too boring to attack from behind. Gu Fei made a turn and arrived in front of the non-smiler. Hey! The non-smiler raised his head. As soon as he saw the black cloth covering his face, he immediately jumped up as if he had been injected with chicken blood. He didn't even want to attack, and just turned around to run. He didn't expect this to be even more boring than fighting an NPC. Gu Fei thought painfully and rushed forward to stab the non-smiler. Thieves were originally a class with an advantage in agility, but the non-smiler focused on strength and had just dropped 2 levels. Compared to a mage who focused on agility, his speed was actually inferior. After all, although mages didn't have an advantage in agility, they didn't skimp on it. The process of killing the non-smiler made Gu Fei feel extremely dull. The non-smiler only cared about running back to the safe zone, but unfortunately, Gu Fei's speed was faster than him. Step by step he chased and slashed. The fire attack of the baptism of flames didn't even trigger once. The non-smiler was still killed before he could step into the safe zone. This caused the surrounding players to scream in shock. Gu Fei sighed deeply. At this time, The non-smiler had already resurrected in the Thief Guild. Naturally, he was extremely angry, pointing at Gu Fei and cursing. Gu Fei turned a deaf ear to him. He shrugged at the non-smiler to express his helplessness, then waved his hand and left. How was it? How was it? How was it? At this time, the Han family young masters group of questions in the mercenary channel had already flooded to more than 100 posts. It's done, Gu Fei quickly replied. Did he drop anything? Han family young master asked. No, Gu Fei replied. No way. He's so lucky. Nothing dropped after dying 3 times? Han family young master's words made everyone very suspicious of his motives. He plotted to kill the non-smiler twice. Was it because he wanted to completely suppress the non-smiler's spirit? Or was it because he coveted the non-smiler's equipment? Let's kill him again. Yutian Shenming was much more straightforward. I don't believe that he won't drop anything. How did he react when he saw you? Han family young master asked Gu Fei. Scared, very scared. What happens after you're killed? Angry, very angry. How about now? I walked away. I think he's going to call for help to surround me. Gu Fei said. A level 30 novice mage robe is still a bit conspicuous. Go buy a mage robe and wear it. Han family young master said. I want to get a set of clothes with high defense, preferably with some agility or strength. What do you recommend? Gu Fei consulted the masters. In this regard, he had also done some research on the internet, but he still did not dare to compare himself to these masters. The Swift Shadow Cloak often has an additional agility attribute. The Cloak of the Strong usually has an additional strength attribute. Take a look at these two. Sword Demon suggested to Gu Fei. Although the defense isn't as good as a warrior's armor, armor is considered a heavy armor. It requires a corresponding amount of strength to wear. You didn't add any strength, right? I haven't added any yet. We'll talk about it later, Gu Fei said. Everyone. Other than that, please get a mage robe. As a mage, you'll be even more conspicuous if you wear a thief's favorite cloak. I promise there won't be a second mage like you in the entire city. Han family young master said. A mage wearing a cloak? Comrades, I want to cry. Yutian Shenming said. Don't worry. Wait until Qinli wears armor in the future before you cry. Brother, you comforted him. Your mage is a bit of a mess. I think we need to recruit a real mage for our team. Han family young master said. Yutian Shenming cried in the end. If I knew this would happen, I would have chosen to be a mage. Alright, let's get down to business. Han family young master said. Let's go back to the city now. Qinli, pay attention to non-smiler's movements. If there's a chance, go and see if he's given up. Then should I go to buy clothes, or to find out what's going on? Gu Fei asked. Do as you see fit. The Han clan's young master said. Gu Fei thought about it. Clothes were sold every day. If he didn't talk to non-smiler now, how would he have the chance to get close to him in the future? He immediately went back to the Thief's Guild. He hid behind the wall and looked over. Non-smiler was still there, sitting alone in front of the Thief's Guild, and playing sadness. Gu Fei had long suspected that non-smiler would call for help to find him. How could he not be on guard now? He looked around for a while, and made up his mind. He walked all the way to the Thief's Guild, and found a dark corner. Seeing that no one was paying attention to him, he quickly put on his mask. He turned around from behind the wall, and appeared in front of non-smiler in a flash. Naturally, non-smiler was startled. He scrambled back into the safe zone. Gu Fei had a smile on his face. Unfortunately, it was blocked by the cloth, and no one could appreciate it. He leaned against the wall and raised his head at non-smiler. Hey! Non-smiler's eyes were full of hatred as he glared at Gu Fei. The two were only one step apart. But in the game, this step could mean the difference between life and death. Non-smiler stood in the safe zone and straightened his back. He looked at Gu Fei and said, What do you guys want? Didn't I already tell you? Gu Fei said. But you guys. Gu Fei knew what he was going to say and directly interrupted him. Yeah, you probably didn't find trouble with Reborn Amethyst, but now you're going to find trouble with us. You see, this is an even crazier and more dangerous move. In order to help you wake up, we could only use this method and kill you twice. Now the organization has sent me to ask you, How are you? Are you awake? Who the hell are you guys? Non-Smiler's expression was close to madness. Is there any point in asking the same question so many times? We're not kids anymore. Grow up. Goofei said. Okay, grow up. Non-Smiler nodded his head. I'll grow up. Suddenly he let out a hysterical roar. Non-Smiler took a step forward and pounced at Goofei. He didn't even have a dagger in his hand. Looking at his movements, it was clear that he wanted to hug Goofei. But Goofei seemed to have anticipated this. His body suddenly crouched, and he swung his sword in a backhand motion. At the same time Non-Smiler flashed past him, fire baptism also brushed past him. Flames flickered and fire magic burned Non-Smiler's body. Goofei flipped his wrist and his sword descended, chopping at Non-Smiler's back. At the same time, he raised his leg and kicked Non-Smiler's butt. Goofei's people had already retreated into the safe zone. Non-Smiler, who was still in the position of hugging Goofei, was kicked forward. At the same time, he was also very unlucky. The second time Goofei chopped at his back, he activated fire magic again. There were also a few people in a hugging posture in the direction Non-Smiler pounced towards. They wanted to hug Non-Smiler, but all they hugged was a flash of white light. Goofei looked at the 4C's badges that these people wore on different parts of their bodies and sighed. Your murderous aura is too heavy. But these people were still immersed in the scene that had just happened in the blink of an eye. Non-Smiler had arranged for people to be nearby, waiting for the masked guy to appear. He didn't want to kill him, but he had to see his true face. Only then could he find out where this group came from and slowly take revenge in the future. Non-Smiler was overjoyed at Goofei's sudden appearance. He hummed and groaned perfunctorily to stall for time with Goofei, waiting for his subordinates to come and block Goofei's path of retreat. Then, he and his subordinates attacked from the front and back, trying to pounce on Goofei, who knew that Goofei would dodge, as if he was already prepared, and even finished him off in such a short period of time. In the eyes of ordinary people, Goofei's movements just now were unbelievably fast. However, in reality, what made Goofei fast was not speed, but rhythm. As he dodged, he was already launching an attack. When the first slash landed, he immediately changed to the angle, where he could quickly launch a second attack. Before the second slash reached its end, his leg had already kicked out, causing Non-Smiler to stagger forward while his life was burned away by the enchantment of the second slash. To put it simply, ordinary players would do 4 steps of 1, 2, 3, 4. Goofei, on the other hand, did 2 steps at the same time, and in between he used the fastest method. This kind of attack and defense in one go, in the eyes of an outsider, could only be described with one word: fast. Goofei was now standing in the safe zone, and the 6 reigning players outside couldn't do anything to him. Once again back in the safe zone, Non-Smiler seemed to have lost his mind. He roared and pounced at Goofei, his hands waving wildly in the air, aiming for the black cloth on Goofei's face. But this time, Goofei didn't move, as if he didn't see it. Non-Smiler's hand was just about to grab the black cloth on Goofei's face, when it suddenly stopped in midair. Goofei shook his head. You didn't read the game manual properly. This is the offline safe zone, and players can't come into contact with each other. Otherwise, if you guys rushed in and threw me out before killing me, this safe zone wouldn't be the same. Non-Smiler's hand, frozen in midair, couldn't stop trembling. He who had died 4 times in a row was now challenging the god of the system, trying to break the taboo of contact in the safe zone. Of course, it was futile. But then Non-Smiler had an idea. He puffed up his cheeks and blew at Goofei's face. Goofei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Are you an idiot? I said we can't come into contact with each other. Do you think you can blow away the cloth on my face just by blowing? Finally, at his wit's end, Non-Smiler slumped to the ground. Goofei looked at him with sympathy, and couldn't help but comfort him. Forget it. You're lucky you didn't drop anything after dying 4 times. Non-Smiler didn't react at all, and it was unknown whether he heard Goofei's words. Goofei shook his head, and was about to walk away when he looked up. The players from Reigning the Seas were now blocking the entrance of the guild in a domineering manner. They obviously had no intention of letting him leave. This first attack fiercely hit a wizard who was chanting beside him. Although Gu Fei didn't know appraisal, in reality, the equipment that each character would choose in the game was still very different. For example, a wizard's robe, a thief's favorite cloak, and a warrior's armor could all be distinguished at a glance. It was also a sure thing to determine a person's class by their attire. This slash hit the other party. Although it didn't kill him directly, it at least interrupted the wizard's chanting. Gu Fei could see through close-range attacks, but he was wary of the wizard's spells. In particular, the wizard's lowest-level spell, Fireball, actually had an automatic tracking function. Although the duration was very short, it still had a considerable impact on Gu Fei's skills. Not only did this slash hit the other party, but Gu Fei's flying kick also landed on a player. Of course, the damage of this kick was negligible, but the other party took a few steps back, just in time to block two players who were about to rush over. Gu Fei landed and flipped the flame baptism in his hand, attacking the wizard again. Unfortunately, the wizard had low HP and mediocre speed, so there was nothing he could do about Gu Fei's attack. The staff in his hand was not in the right position, and he felt very annoyed. The fire attack of the flame baptism was launched at the right time. Although the wizard's magic defense was higher than the average character's, his physical defense was on the low side, and he had low HP. After being hit by Gu Fei twice, he still couldn't escape death. Full of energy, Gu Fei raised his sword and fought again. A group of people blocked the door to kill him, but it turned out that Gu Fei had the initiative. A very important reason was that Non-Smiler stood in the safe zone and yelled, "Don't kill him! Tear off the cloth on his face." Non-Smiler was worried that once Gu Fei went out, he would be instantly dismembered and revived in the safe zone. If that happened, he would never be able to see this person's true identity again. So he made the same mistake as Cao Cao. It was said that in Dangyang Chongban, Cao Cao shouted, "Don't shoot arrows, capture him alive," causing Zhao Yin to carry Liu Bei's son and stain his robe with blood before finally leaving. However, Cao Cao had at least 1,000,000 troops, so he was very confident. Non-Smiler only had 10 people, and yet he dared to follow the ancient times. As he shouted, Gu Fei had already finished off the wizard. As soon as these words came out, the other players who wanted to take revenge were put in a difficult position. Not only could ordinary players not maximize their attack power like Gu Fei, but they also couldn't minimize the damage of their weapons. A few warriors with heavy weapons hesitated at this time, afraid that the heavy firepower in their hands would flatten Gu Fei. Gu Fei was not a rash person who was brave but not astute. When he made the decision to rush out of the encirclement, he had already seen the 10 people clearly and believed that he had the strength to deal with these 10 people. In the end, as soon as Non-Smiler gave the order, the remaining 9 of the 10 people became timid. One by one, they looked at Gu Fei, not knowing whether to attack or not. This made Gu Fei very unhappy, and he turned back to glare at Non-Smiler with murderous intent. Non-Smiler was not satisfied, and continued to add to the chaos behind him. Capture him, tear off the cloth on his face, tear off the cloth on his face. A group of people put away their weapons and rushed forward unarmed, wanting to compete with Gu Fei. In the end, Gu Fei's flame baptism danced more vigorously than they did. Flames flew everywhere, and in the blink of an eye, 2 people with low HP were also defeated. Some warriors, relying on their rough skin and thick flesh, wanted to come forward and forcibly capture Gu Fei alive. But Gu Fei's speed was faster than the warriors. And with this skill and this fleeting movement, the group of people were like eagles catching chicks, but they couldn't even touch the edge of Gu Fei's clothes. In the blink of an eye, another 2 people fell to the ground. One of them was a warrior who thought that his HP was so high that he didn't care about Gu Fei's attacks. Non-Smiler had already realized that his command was a great failure, but things had already come to this, and he could only continue to make mistakes. Otherwise, the people who had heroically died at the beginning would come back and blame him. So he continued to shout, hold on, reinforcements will be here soon." Just from listening to him, and without looking at the scene, one would think that Gu Fei had brought a large group of people to surround them. After hearing Non-Smiler's reminder, Gu Fei also felt that it was not good for him to continue playing around here. When added to the damage of fire magic, Gu Fei's attack power was definitely not to be underestimated. But the problem was that his fire magic's probability was only 30%, which was the difference between maximum and minimum attack, that Gu Fei couldn't overcome even with his skills. This caused him to often encounter some awkward problems in the process of fighting. For example, when he chopped down with his sword, there were several exquisite follow-up moves hidden, and the result was that the fire magic was triggered. With a whoosh, the opponent died. Or sometimes when he chopped down from the left, he hoped that the fire magic would destroy the guy in one go, and he would be free to deal with the right side. In the end, the fire magic just didn't come out, and he had no choice but to readjust his formation. This intermittent fire magic attack not only helped Gu Fei, but it also disrupted his rhythm to a certain extent, affecting his performance. In a one-on-one fight, this kind of effect was negligible, but in this kind of complex situation where one was fighting against many, the effect was constantly magnified. Originally, out of the 10 people surrounding him, 5 had been cut down by Gu Fei, but now there were still 8 left. It seemed that his plan to kill all 10 of them was a bit unrealistic. Not to mention the one who came in as support. Just the 2 thieves had already died under Gu Fei's sword once. But in the end, this was the main entrance of the Thieves' Guild. After dying, they resurrected on the spot and rushed out to fight again. In any case, Non-Smiler's order was not to kill, but to look at the opponent's appearance. In order to prevent the durability of their equipment from dropping when they died, the 2 simply took off their upper arms and directly came out to fight with Gu Fei. Gu Fei's attacks were no longer limited to sword slashes, punches, and kicks. In short, he didn't let anyone get close. Although the few of them were beaten to a sorry state by Gu Fei, they still thought that at least their encirclement was very successful. Little did they know that it wasn't that they had trapped Gu Fei, but that Gu Fei himself didn't want to leave. At this moment, when Gu Fei wanted to leave, he decisively swung his sword twice, taking advantage of the gap that the other side dodged, and rushed out of the circle. Non-Smiler also thought that his encirclement was very successful. When he saw that Gu Fei had rushed out of the circle, he thought that it was a small mistake on the part of his subordinates. He anxiously shouted, "Hurry, surround him, surround him." As he shouted, he also rushed out of the safe zone with his upper arms bare. But at this time, Gu Fei had already rushed out a few meters. Non-Smiler pointed at Gu Fei and shouted at the 2 thieves beside him, "Quickness, hurry, quickness." The 2 thieves cried, "I just died and lost a level. I don't know quickness anymore." One of them cried even louder, "My quickness has already burned quite a lot of proficiency." When Non-Smiler heard this, his heart sank. He had already forgotten about his losses. He only looked at how many levels he had lost, and the durability of his equipment had all been refreshed to 0. But he was really lucky that he didn't drop anything. He completely forgot that his level 30 quickness, which he had already gained a lot of proficiency with, was now also gone. Just as he was vexed, he suddenly saw that Gu Fei had stopped in front of him. Non-Smiler was overjoyed and hurriedly ordered everyone to give chase. Unexpectedly, when Gu Fei turned around, he suddenly ran back with quick steps, muttering something. Everyone was startled and couldn't help but slow down a few steps. In the end, Gu Fei turned around and ran again with big strides. "Fuck, we've been tricked!" Non-Smiler shouted, flustered and exasperated. Because of this slowdown, the distance between them increased again. Everyone was vexed and sped up again when suddenly there was a flash of fire in front of them. A fire dragon soared up and turned into several fireballs in the blink of an eye, rushing towards them with a tung-tung-tung sound. Accompanied by everyone's cries of surprise. Everyone was hit by the explosion. Apart from Non-Smiler, these people still had traces of being cut by Gu Fei, and their health wasn't full. After one attack, 2 more people returned to the safe zone. Level 30 wizard skill, Chain Fireball. Although the shirtless Non-Smiler didn't die, he was not lightly injured. At this time, his eyes were full of hot tears, and he finally couldn't help but let out a sigh. "Fuck, I forgot that he's a wizard." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.